Chapter 1184. Rumble, the glaciers cracked and the earth split open. Waves of cold air rushed into the sky like a white torrent and filled the air. The gigantic abyssal blue hole appeared in the sky with a shocking momentum. The gigantic hole was like a monster swallowing the earth. Along with the violent lightning bear, the collapsing ice layer, they fell into the mouth of the abyss. Luo's eyes were filled with shock. Even Flower Snake couldn't hide the surprise on his face. Could this be the secret of the North River Ice Realm? Swish, swish, swish. At the same time, the other people from the Imperial Sword Gate and Huan Yu Hall also arrived. Looking at this incomparably spectacular scene, everyone's faces were filled with deep astonishment and excitement. The entrance to the Ice Palace? Found it? You killed Dabai, I will never forgive you. Sob, sob. The little girl was weak and helpless, crying her heart out. Seeing the little girl in Flower Snake's hand, Cheng Xiong narrowed his eyes and said, So it's this damned girl. Back in Ice City, I knew there was something wrong with her. She said that anyone who stepped into the North River Ice Realm would be punished by the chilly winter claw. So it was her. Hee little girl. I didn't kill your Dabai. Tell me, the Ice Palace is here, right? Flower Snake said with a smile. It's you, a bunch of bad people. I won't tell you even if I die. Oh? Looks like you really do know the secret of the North River Ice Realm. Tell me, and I won't kill you. Otherwise, I will throw you into a pile of snakes and make you wish you were dead. Hearing Flower Snake's words, the little girl trembled in fear. However, she still gritted her teeth and tears welled up in her eyes. I don't know, I won't tell you, is that so? Flower Snake's eyes flashed coldly. Then, he waved his hand and threw the little girl into the gigantic blue hole. Then you can lead the way for us down there. The little girl's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. She closed her eyes and fell into the abyss. At the same time, Flower Snake, Luo, Cheng Xiong, and the rest of the people from Huan Yu Hall and Imperial Sword Sect quickly followed closely behind. They turned into sharp afterimages and flew into the blue hole. The newly opened blue hole was like a giant abyssal mouth that swallowed everyone. More than 20 figures disappeared from it one after another. In less than 10 seconds, Chu Hen, Long Xuanxuang, Shifengzi, and Noni, the Yin-Yang beast, appeared from the dark. 3 humans and 1 beast flew above the blue hole and looked down. The endless abyss seemed to be a spatial passageway that led to another world. What should we do? Long Xuanxuang asked softly. Go down. Without any hesitation, Chu Hen leapt up and took the lead to enter the blue hole. Long Xuanxuang, Shifengzi, and Noni followed closely behind. 3 people and 1 beast directly followed the 2 teams in front of them into the abyss. The bone-chilling temperature assaulted them from all directions. Below the blue hole was an incomparably sturdy ice wall. Moreover, as they continued to descend, the air flow became colder and colder. From time to time, there would be long and sharp frost blades flying out from the abyss. However, with the Imperial Sword Sect and Huan Yu Hall blocking in front, there were very few frost blades that could reach Chu Hen. The bottom of the blue hole could not be seen. With Flower Snake as the leader, the people from Huan Yu Hall carried the little girl and acted as the leader of the team. Luo and the rest followed closely behind. There was almost no distance between them. As the depth continued to increase, the structure of the blue hole also became more complicated. Giant crisscrossing ice pillars were suspended in the air like bridges. Spectacular ice walls were branching out from the area below, forming a dark and deep passageway. Those incomparably sharp ice blades and wind blades flew out from those dark passageways. The underground world under the blue hole could be said to be connected in all directions. It was spectacular and vast. Moreover, the bottom of the abyss did not descend in a straight line. Various hanging ice walls protruded from all directions. Behind the layers of ice, there were dark passageways that led to unknown places. It was like an incomparably huge underground ice palace. Suddenly, A wave of cold air that was as cold as an icicle surged out without any warning. In the next instant, countless piercingly cold frost blades that were like spiraling flying daggers shot out from one of the hidden passageways. This time, the frost blade attack could be said to be incomparably fierce. Everyone's expression changed as they continuously dodged and defended themselves. However, there were still a few unlucky figures that had their flesh and tendons and bones cut by the dense frost blades, accompanied by a few shrill cries. They became bloodied people. The deep cold air flow caused the blood in their bodies to quickly freeze. One by one, they fell from the sky powerlessly. In the end, they were shattered into pieces amidst the roar of the frost blades. What a terrifying power! Ching Xiong's face turned pale. Luo Lu's gaze slightly darkened, but his emotions did not change much. He glanced at Flower Snake, who was holding the little girl hostage, before he lifted his gaze and looked at the area above. It seems like there are still people who want to be the Oriole. Ching Xiong and the others beside him were stunned, and their faces were filled with astonishment. Senior brother Luo Lu! Heh! The corners of Luo Lu's mouth curled up into a mocking smile. These days, all kinds of cats and dogs come to the northern river. In the end, they don't even know how they died. Hearing the shrill cries coming from the bottom of the abyss, the expressions of Chu Hen and the others changed slightly. It seems like something has happened, Shifeng Zi said in a deep voice. Chu Hen nodded slightly. Be careful. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, hundreds of ring-shaped wind blades attacked. They were like scimitars that minced the space, emitting a dense, destructive aura. Chu Hen's pupils turned cold, and a vigorous true origin energy erupted from his body. He raised his hand to lift up his palm, and a soft yet vigorous palm force poured down like a hot wind blowing past, and all the ring-shaped wind blades that were flying towards him exploded into dust. However, right when Chu Hen easily blocked these wind blades, a low and deep sword chi suddenly trembled in the air. Instantly, a solid sword shadow with an imposing manner flashed through the sky, and it swept up a desolate and murderous aura as it slashed towards Chu Hen and the others. The sword light with a majestic aura attacked from the bottom of the blue hole, and it emitted circle after circle of flowing sword markings. The expressions of the three of them changed instantly. Disperse! Chu Hen shouted in a deep voice as he lifted up his palm to his left and right, and he blasted away Long Xuanxuang, Shifeng Zi, and the Yin-Yang beast, Noni, swoosh. The piercingly cold sword chi that was comparable to a shocking rainbow practically brushed past Chu Hen's chest and pierced through. The sharp aura that covered it cut through Chu Hen's clothes, and strands of blood splattered out. Long Xuanxuang's pretty face turned slightly pale. Chu Hen. Without waiting for Chu Hen to reply, the sword light that pierced through diagonally struck an ice wall behind them. Rumble! In an instant, the ice wall rapidly cracked open, and the ground shook as huge chunks of ice smashed down from the sky. Moreover, a few huge chunks of ice, that were nearly 100 meters in size, directly smashed towards Long Xuanxuang's position. Not good. Shifeng Zi turned pale with fright. It would be fine if it was an ordinary piece of ice, but the bottom of the blue hole was extremely cold ice that had existed for 10,000 years. If one were to be continuously smashed, just the profound cold energy that entered one's body would be enough to make Long Xuanxuang, who was at the profound sky realm, unable to bear it. The strength of these few chunks of ice was much stronger than the hundreds of wind blades. The falling boulders and ice cubes came crashing down rapidly. At this critical moment, Chu Hen left a trail of afterimages in the air and immediately pulled Long Xuanxuang into his arms. Boom! In the next moment, the huge 10,000-year-old ice block smashed into Chu Hen's back like a small mountain, and a chaotic black light swept out from Chu Hen's body. Long Xuanxuang's beautiful eyes trembled, and she looked at Chu Hen, who was protecting her under his body, in panic. On his handsome face, there was a pair of deep and steady eyes. His firm and resolute features gave off an indescribable heroic aura. Go! But just as Chu Hen was about to leave, large chunks of ice came crashing down one after another. Endless 10,000-year-old cold invaded his body, and Chu Hen suddenly felt as if the blood in his body was about to freeze. His body staggered, and the violent impact caused him to lose his balance. Under the continuous impact, Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang fell onto an ice bridge below. When the ice bridge was crushed, a dark passage appeared below the two of them. When Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang fell into the passage, a violent reverse suction burst out. The two of them were like leaves that were sucked into a vortex of cold wind, and were immediately sucked into the passage. Chu Hen. Shifeng Zi's expression changed again. Woo! Even the yin-yang beast, Noni, let out a panicked cry. Before Shifeng Zi could rescue them, huge chunks of ice fell one after another, and immediately filled and buried the dark passage. In the blink of an eye, the layers of ice piled up to a height of several hundred meters, and directly buried one side of the ice wall. Hearing the violent commotion coming from behind the blue hole, Huanyu Palace's flower snake turned around and chuckled. Don't act recklessly. If this place collapses, we will all be buried here. Don't worry, it won't collapse. Luolu laughed coldly. The structure and size of the blue hole's abyss far exceeded their imagination. The ice that had accumulated for tens of thousands of years here was as hard as steel. A small collapse was simply not enough to destroy this ancient underground ice palace. At the same time, Luolu's eyes surged with a hint of pride when he felt the two auras behind him disappear. Humph! Trash that can be dealt with so easily dares to meddle in my business. Chapter 1185. Whoosh! The cold wind whistled, and the airflow was like a torrent. An extremely strong countercurrent whirlwind swept Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang into an unknown passage like a whirlpool. The extremely cold profound energy continuously invaded the major meridians in Chu Hen's body. However, he hugged Long Xuanxuang tightly, protecting her under his body, blocking all the ice profound energy for her. The two were like fallen leaves that were swept up by a gale, drifting with the wind. Long Xuanxuang leaned against the other party's embrace. Her heart was incomparably calm, and she did not even close her eyes. It was as if she was not the least bit worried that she would fall into the whirlpool of death and not be able to get out. At this moment, the young man in front of her with deep eyes did not seem to be the little brother that she had grown up with. The other party's calmness touched her indescribably. Bang! Accompanied by a heavy muffled sound, Chu Hen's back once again violently collided with an ice wall. Following that, the two were bounced back again, and then heavily smashed onto the ground. The biting cold wind whistled above their heads. The two were like southern birds that had landed in the snow, their bodies covered with a thin layer of frost. Completely protected by Chu Hen's body, Long Xuanxuang was not the least bit injured. Feeling the cold coming from all directions, she hurriedly got up and helped Chu Hen up. Chu Hen. Chu Hen. How are you? Long Xuanxuang asked repeatedly. However, there was no reply from Chu Hen. The other party's body was wrapped in a layer of ice, and his arms and cheeks were also covered with frost. His aura was so weak that it seemed to have sunk into a state of deathly stillness. Long Xuanxuang's heartstrings trembled, and her pretty face was filled with anxiety and panic. The steadiness that she had felt just now became nothingness in an instant. No, no, wake up quickly. Long Xuanxuang's beautiful eyes were slightly red. She held Chu Hen's face in her hands, but there was a great sorrow in her eyes. At this moment, Chu Hen suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes, which were as bright as the stars, revealed a hint of a smile. I'm just kidding. Long Xuanxuang was startled. She retracted her hands and widened her eyes. You, haha, how can this bit of power of frost hurt me? Chu Hen straightforwardly laughed. Following that, a purple flame rose from within his body. In an instant, the frost that covered his body quickly melted and dispersed. Long Xuanxuang was both angry and amused. But more than that, he was relieved. She turned around and quietly wiped away the sparkling tears at the corner of her eyes. Then, he pretended as if nothing had happened and said, "You bastard, how dare you make fun of me? Is it fun to see me worry?" Chu Hen smiled. "Yes, I won't dare again." With that, he gently breathed a sigh of relief, and his eyes softened. Although Chu Hen looked quite relaxed, in fact, he was not pretending just now. After all, it was the ice chi of 10,000 years. Even if he had the bloodline limit of the saint body, he could not ignore it at will. For a short moment, Chu Hen did fall into a semi-conscious state. As he got up, he helped Long Xuanxuang up. "We have to get out of here quickly. West Wind Sr. and Noni are still outside." Long Xuanxuang nodded, her expression slightly solemn. The two swept their eyes around, observing the surrounding environment. There were thick ice walls on both sides and behind them. The passage above where the two people were swept in had been blocked. There seemed to be only one path left in front of them. The deep and dark passage was quite wide. It gave people the feeling that it was the entrance to a mysterious canyon exuding an unknown aura. Bursts of cold air rushed over, giving people an uneasy palpitation. "Let's go," Chu Hen said in a low voice. Long Xuanxuang pursed her red lips and nodded solemnly. In the silent bottom of the domain of ice, other than the sound of their footsteps, there was only the cold whistling of the wind. Whoosh! Just at this moment, a piercingly cold whirlwind swept over from the front, and it was accompanied by the sharp sound of countless waves of air being cut apart. Chu Hen's pupils constricted. In the darkness in front of him, he saw a dense ring of wind blades interweaving with each other. It was like a crescent moon, covering the sky and earth, rushing towards the two of them, wooing. In that instant, a fierce and domineering aura emanated from Chu Hen's body. He punched out, and the powerful fist energy was like an angry tiger. The ring of wind blades directly in front of him were directly smashed into pieces, and pierced through the wind vortex. Immediately, Chu Hen grabbed Long Xuanxuang's wrist, and the two of them quickly rushed forward through the gap in the wind blades. But in the next second, another strong gust of wind exploded. This time, the intensity of the gust was far greater than the previous one. The sharp and cold wind blades were comparable to flying daggers, tearing through the air and splitting the air. Each wind blade contained extremely shocking lethality. A trace of seriousness surged between Chu Hen's brows. True Yuan's violet palace opened, and a steady stream of true Yuan flowed around his body. Waves of majestic energy gushed out and collided with the wind blades that were flying over wantonly, shattering them. Even though the frost blades flying towards him were comparable to 10,000 arrows, Chu Hen was still able to calmly deal with them. The two of them kept moving forward without stopping at all. Without stopping, they moved forward against the wind. The area in front of them that was shrouded in darkness gradually appeared in their field of vision. Wang. Suddenly, the surrounding ice walls actually lit up with bright blue light patterns. The light patterns crisscrossed, like a large net that was spread out. The large blue net extended from the area in front of them to the periphery. And in the darkness in front of them, a gentle and obscure light suddenly lit up. That is? Chu Hen's gaze congealed. Under the illumination of the blue light that was as dense as fog, a pair of huge cold eyes that flickered with a brilliant light faintly appeared in the darkness. It was like the eyes of a ghost hidden behind the curtain of the night. It looked down at the two of them in a condescending manner. It was mysterious and made people's hearts tremble. Chu Hen slowed down a little, and let go of Long Xuanxuang's wrist. "I need to go up and take a look. Are you okay here alone?" "Yes," Long Xuanxuang said solemnly. "Good. When the wind blades come, try to walk along the ice walls." "Okay. You be careful too." Chu Hen nodded. Then, he leaped up, leaving a lightning-like shadow in the air, and flew straight ahead. The torrent of wind blades came pouring down. Chu Hen dodged agilely, and blocked a portion of the wind blades that were flying towards Long Xuanxuang. And Long Xuanxuang did not have the slightest bit of carelessness. Her slender and fair fingers formed a seal, and along with a strong fluctuation of vital energy, the layer of ice under her feet cracked open, and a thick and solid ice wall rose in front of her. The ring-shaped wind blades slammed into the ice wall, carving out deep and neat nicks one after another. At the same time, Chu-Hen quickly rushed to the front. In the darkness, intertwining blue light patterns gathered on the ground, forming a luxurious and gorgeous array. In the sky above the talisman array, a pair of cold eyes gradually appeared. The corner of Chu-Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, and a huge ice crystal wolf that was hundreds of feet long appeared in his eyes. The ice crystal wolf was squatting in the center of the talisman array. It opened its bloody mouth, and its eyes flashed with a murderous aura. The powerful frost wind blades had actually come from its mouth. Chu-Hen was stunned. From the corner of his eyes, he saw that behind the crystal ice wolf, there was a dark exit that led to the back. Chapter 1186. At the bottom of the North River, the Palace of Ice. In the darkness, a strange array that looked like a net flashed with a luxurious blue light. In the center of the array, a giant ice wolf stared at the front. The ice wolf was huge, with claws as sharp as knives. Its back was green, and its mouth was wide open. A pair of cold eyes flashed with a cold light. Chu-Hen was both astonished and fearful. So those dangerous wind blades were released by it. It stood in front of Chu-Hen, as if it was protecting the beast spirit at the bottom of the North River. However, this ice crystal green wolf did not have any signs of life. In other words, it was not a living creature. "Looks like I can get out of here after I get rid of you." In an instant, a string of violent dark blue lightning dragged hundreds of meters in the air. Chu-Hen, surrounded by the powerful aura of the Xian Xia divine lightning, charged at the ice crystal green wolf at the fastest speed possible. It seemed to have sensed Chu-Hen's arrival. A layer of thick ice chi appeared on the ice crystal green wolf's body. Whoosh! Immediately after, a cold white cyclone spewed out from its mouth. The cold air that froze the air passed through Chu-Hen's flame robe and flowed into all the major meridians in his body. Under the cover of the extremely cold air, a dense ring of wind blades tore through the air. Compared to any of the previous attacks, the ring of wind blades this time was especially fierce. Every wind blade was more than 10 meters long. They were as sharp as the shuttle that chased after the moon and stars, showing the power of destruction. Even Chu-Hen could sense the danger. Without any hesitation, the sacred demon pupil physique's bloodline limit activated rapidly. Together with the purple light that burst out, the 5 black dots in the depths of Chu-Hen's eyes rotated, shield of punishment. Buzz! Countless spiraling purple cyclones instantly intertwined, forming a shield of light that was dozens of meters wide in front of Chu-Hen. Fierce ring-shaped wind blades slashed on the light shield, causing layers of chaotic light patterns to splash out. However, more than 10 wind blades fell one after another, and the light shield was covered with densely packed fine cracks. However, Chu-Hen didn't care at all. He pushed the shield of punishment and used it as a shield as he steadily moved forward against the torrent of hurricanes. Going against the current. The distance between Chu-Hen and the ice crystal green wolf continued to shrink. But at this moment, the ice crystal green wolf's cold eyes flashed with a cold light once again. A gust of frigid air that could freeze and crack the space gushed out from its open bloody mouth. Behind the ring-shaped frost blades that filled the sky, nearly 100 frost arrows that exuded boundless killing intent flew out. Each arrow was 20 to 30 meters long and half a meter wide. Wherever it went, it dragged out a thick and solid white airwave in the air. The arrows rained down, filled with killing intent. Boom! With a loud bang, the first frost arrow that bore the brunt of the attack hit the surface of the shield of punishment. The ice crystals that filled the sky exploded. A terrifying impact surged forth. In an instant, the shield of punishment was like a frozen mirror, covered in countless cracks. What astonishing power! Chu-Hen's expression changed slightly. Bang, 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 dozens of powerful ice arrows fell in a row, and each arrow contained the power of thunder that could pierce through mountains and rivers. Chu Hen's pupils shrank slightly, and then his figure moved. He immediately threw off the shield of punishment in front of him and flew up into the sky. Bang! With a heavy and violent explosion, the entire underground ice palace faintly trembled. A circle of chaotic purple light swept out, and the super-defensive shield that Chu Hen had always been proud of was instantly shattered into thousands of pieces. Chu Hen shook his head inwardly. This was the first time that the shield of punishment had been shattered so thoroughly. The northern river really wasn't a good place. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! Powerful frost arrows pierced through the air, and in desperation, Chu Hen turned around and retreated as fast as he could. The fierce arrows spread out in pursuit, and under Chu Hen's continuous evasion, they continuously sank deep into the thick ice wall. Seeing that Chu Hen had returned, Long Xuanxuang's eyes lit up. "Are you hurt?" Chu Hen flashed down and returned to Long Xuanxuang's side. "No. What's the situation up ahead?" Chu Hen shook his head slightly, and then immediately told her about the ice crystal green wolf blocking the way, as well as its peculiarities. After listening, Long Xuanxuang's beautiful eyes rippled slightly, and she said softly, "So if we want to leave here, we have to pass through the front?" "That's right. But its power is so terrifying, how can we break through?" The problem in front of the two seemed to be a bit tricky. After a brief hesitation, Chu Hen said, "Strength is its advantage, but after all, it is a dead thing without intelligence. As long as it is a dead thing, it has a fatal weakness." A hint of wisdom flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. He looked at Long Xuanxuang and said, "I need you to help me." A moment later, Chu Hen finished explaining the matter. "Do you remember?" he asked. Long Xuanxuang's red lips opened slightly. "Yes." At the same time, the biting cold frost blade hurricane in front of them gradually weakened. Chu Hen's eyes flashed with determination. "Go!" Swish, swish! As soon as his voice fell, the two rushed out one after the other. Chu Hen took the lead and launched an attack at the fastest speed. Streaks of lightning flashed across the sky, and Chu Hen immediately arrived in front of the huge talisman array. Woo! There seemed to be a high-pitched wolf howl in the air. The ice crystal green wolf opened its huge mouth, and countless ring-shaped frost blades intertwined again. Hum! The purple light shone brightly, and the demonic flame was like a tide. The shield of punishment was once again bathed in flames, and it appeared in front of Chu Hen. Bang, bang, bang! The overwhelming frost blades continued to slash down, and each impact caused the shield of punishment to tremble violently. After a series of frost blades, the ice crystal green wolf's mouth once again overflowed with white 10,000-year profound energy. One after another, giant ice arrows with peerless power and murderous aura arrived as expected. This time, Chu Hen did not have any intention of retreating. He pushed the shield of punishment and took advantage of the momentum. Boom! When the first arrow solidly struck the shield of punishment, a violent force spread out, and the sky was filled with ice fragments that fluttered like the feathers of a swan. The violent shock wave poured into Chu Hen's body, and he suddenly felt a chill in his internal organs. However, at this moment Long Xuanxuang, who was behind him, was already holding a crystal-clear, glowing holy bow, the mystic rain bow. The treasure passed down to Long Xuanxuang by the sect master of the mysterious ice sect. The bowstring was like a full moon, and an arrow of light surrounded by white light patterns was placed between Long Xuanxuang's fingers. It was as cold as a painting, and its temperament was like snow. Long Xuanxuang's phoenix eyes flashed with a decisive light. Whoosh! In a split second, an arrow of holy light that was less than 2 meters long tore through the air like a comet and flew forward. The dazzling holy arrow flew past Chu Hen's position in a graceful manner, flying past his side and sweeping towards the giant ice arrows in front of him. The light arrow passed through the gaps of the dense giant ice arrows, like a swordfish going against the current. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, a series of ice arrows hit the shield of punishment, and the shield was already riddled with holes and cracks. Bang! At the same time that the shield of punishment exploded, the holy arrow released by Long Xuanxuang immediately passed through the gaps of the many arrows and flew in front of the ice crystal green wolf. A bone-chilling cyclone spewed out of the green wolf's mouth. The speed of the holy arrow seemed to be controlled by an invisible hand, and its speed was extremely slow. Crack! With a crisp sound, the circle of white light on the surface of the arrow of holy light quietly split open. In the next moment, under the cracked light, a sharp sword swaying with a dark green holy light suddenly appeared in the air. The blue ran sword. The arrow released by the Xuanyu Palace was wrapped in the blue ran sword. Flying fairy flash. With the blue ran sword as a guide, wherever the holy sword went, Chu Hen would go. Whoosh! A shadow flashed, and Chu Hen, who was still several miles away a second ago, instantly passed through all the ice arrows in front of him like a ghost. He appeared next to the blue ran sword, and at the same time, arrived in front of the ice crystal green wolf. Woo! The low howl of the wolf overlapped, and a threatening cold light flashed in its eyes. In an instant, a stronger ice aura than before was sprayed from its mouth towards Chu Hen. However, at the same time, a black shadow took advantage of the momentum and rushed under the ice crystal green wolf's head like a black bolt of lightning. Boom! With an unprecedented violent explosion, that incomparably fierce black shadow directly penetrated the ice crystal green wolf's chin. Shattered ice shards flew all over the place. From bottom to top, it slanted across the sky. The extraordinary and overbearing blow was like a hot knife through butter. After the black shadow penetrated the green wolf's chin, it once again exploded its head. A piercingly cold aura swept in all directions. A giant hole more than 10 meters deep suddenly burst open on the ice crystal green wolf's head. Then, with a boom sound, the entire ice crystal green wolf exploded into a dazzling blue light, and at the same time, the bright talisman array below rapidly dimmed. Chapter 1187. Boom! A powerful and shockingly terrifying aura surged in the surroundings. The black shadow formed by the bloodline boundary of the chaotic body was as powerful as lightning. It pierced through the head of the ice crystal green wolf with an unstoppable force. The piercingly cold air that pervaded the air quickly quieted down. All of the ice arrows and ring-shaped wind blades that were flying out collapsed on their own, exploding into fine powder and crystal fragments that filled the sky. Chu Hen stood in the air with a majestic aura. He looked back at Long Xuanxuang, who was wielding the mystic rain bow, and could not help but smile. Not bad. You grasped the timing perfectly. Hearing Chu Hen's praise, the corner of Long Xuanxuang's mouth curled up slightly. Her long and narrow eyes were filled with a smile. Thud! At this moment, the sound of a light object falling to the ground rang out. Chu Hen looked to the side and saw a white jade-like object fall where the ice crystal green wolf had disappeared. Huh! A trace of surprise flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. He landed and released a suction force from his palm, sucking the unknown object into his palm. It was something similar to a royal seal. It had a square base, and there was a wolf-shaped ice sculpture on it. It had a green back and a crouching posture. The wolf's mouth was open and its eyes were shining with a cold light. It looked exactly the same as the ice crystal green wolf that had blocked their way earlier. Could it be? Chu Hen clenched his fist, and a sliver of true yuan surged out of his body. The slivers of true yuan fused into the royal seal, and a strange and powerful energy rippled out. An illusory wolf immediately appeared above the royal seal. As expected, his thoughts were confirmed. He loosened his grip on the royal seal and withdrew his true yuan. The floating wolf disappeared. What is this? Long Xuanxuang asked curiously as she arrived beside Chu Hen. The thing that blocked our way earlier, Chu Hen replied. Oh? What is it? A divine artifact. Is that so? Long Xuanxuang's eyes lit up. I thought it was those frost monsters we encountered outside. Chu Hen nodded in affirmation. He smiled and said, I also thought it was a product of the snow soul essence, but now it seems that the formation here is controlling the artifact's activation. As soon as someone approaches this place, it will automatically attack. With that said, Chu Hen extended his hand and handed the green wolf royal seal to Long Xuanxuang. The latter was stunned, and he looked at the other party in puzzlement. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, nodded slightly, and said, This is for you, a divine artifact. You should keep it for yourself. It's a waste in my hands. So what if it's a divine artifact? This is an ice-type divine artifact. In comparison, you will be able to unleash its power. Following that, Chu Hen picked up Long Xuanxuang's lily-white hand and placed the royal seal in her palm. This can be considered an unexpected gain. Even if we don't find the ice divine stone, it's not a loss at all. Long Xuanxuang smiled. She knew Chu Hen's character. No matter what, he would give the royal seal to her. She did not refuse, and kept the royal seal into her storage bracelet. It's about time, let's go, Chu Hen said in a low voice. They had already wasted a lot of time here. They did not know how Shifeng was doing. Long Xuanxuang nodded, and the two entered the tunnel behind them. The gloomy underground ice palace was filled with a chill. In a corner of an ice wall, a figure with a heavy aura was sitting cross-legged against the ice wall. Beside him was a ferocious-looking demonic beast. The demonic beast's body was also covered in wounds. Its abdomen contracted and expanded, and it let out a deep roar. In the darkness, in a corner, a man and a beast seemed to be staring at each other. At this moment, a low sound of footsteps approached from afar. In a split second, the demonic beast suddenly propped itself on the ground with its 4 claws, the fur on its body stood up, and it bared its sharp fangs that flickered with a dark light. Under its gaze, 2 young figures, one male and one female, gradually walked out from the dim light ahead. When it saw their figures and faces clearly, the demonic beast immediately relaxed, and its ferocious eyes immediately eased up. It's Noni and Senior West Wind, Long Xuanxuang exclaimed. Chu Hen's expression changed, and he immediately rushed over. Senior West Wind? How are you? Chu Hen hurriedly helped Shifeng up, and saw that there was a pool of blood on his chest, and his face was rather pale. I'm fine. Shifeng waved his hand, pointed to Noni not far away, and said, But this kitten was seriously injured in order to save me. Chu Hen frowned, turned to look at Noni. At this moment, the other party had transformed into its original battle form. Its body was as strong as a tiger, and its black and white fur was like a Tai Chi yin and yang pattern. Noni's body was covered with neat and narrow sword scars. Especially the left abdomen, more than half a meter deep, and the internal organs could be faintly seen. If it wasn't for the cold air here that froze its wound, and the healing medicine that Shifeng gave it, it most likely would have died from excessive blood loss. Was it done by that group of people? Chu Hen's eyes flashed with a cold sharpness. Woo! The yin-yang beast made a low muffled sound, and then a layer of soft light patterns floated on its body, and then its body rapidly shrank, and in the blink of an eye, it returned to its usual petite form. Shifeng continued to speak. That girl is the North River, the survivor of the Lost Clan, the last person to guard the ice domain, the North River Lost Clan? Chu Hen's eyes darkened. Where are they now? Shifeng raised his hand and pointed in a direction. Chu Hen took a deep breath, but the look in his eyes became more and more fierce. He said to Long Xuanxuang, You take care of Senior West Wind and Noni, I'll go and have a look. With that, without waiting for Long Xuanxuang to reply, his figure flashed, leaving an afterimage in the air, and disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. Under the thousands of years of ice and snow in the North River, buried the former imperial palace of ice. It was an incomparably luxurious large palace, like the world's treasures. Sparkling and translucent icicles propped up the long corridor, and a flight of stairs that were as smooth as jade covered the ground. The long years did not damage it in the slightest. It was magnificent, like an ancient temple hidden under thousands of years of snow and frost. However, the door of the ice palace was tightly shut. It was so tight that there was no gap. At this moment, in front of the door of the ice palace, more than 20 fierce figures threw a thin little girl on the steps of the door. "Little girl, tell elder sister, how can this ice palace be opened?" Flower Snake of Huanyu Palace revealed a seductive smile. "If you don't tell me, elder sister will really get angry." With that, Flower Snake gently raised her left hand, and the venomous snake pattern on the back of her hand came to life, and then turned into a colorful venomous snake. The snake opened its mouth, and its sharp fangs flashed with an emerald luster. "If you get bitten by it, your whole body will fester." Using the softest tone, she said the most vicious words. The little girl was so scared that her face turned pale. Even though her eyes were filled with fear, she still bit her lips. I don't know." Flower Snake's eyes gradually turned cold, and her tone also became cold. "You will make me very impatient. I'll give you one last chance, or else." Hiss! Flower Snake spat out a dazzling red tongue. The little girl was so scared that she kept retreating, and tears welled up in her eyes. She shook her head. "Grandfather only left me that necklace, and it has already been destroyed by him." Necklace? Everyone looked at Luolu from the Imperial Sword sect. The destroyed necklace was the key to open the door of the Ice Palace? The latter laughed coldly. "Is that so? If that's the case, then you should be of no use at all." Just as he finished speaking, Luolu's eyes flashed with a cold light. Chapter 1188. "If that's the case, then you should be of no use at all." As his voice fell, Luolu's eyes revealed a cold gleam. With a wave of his fingers, a sharp sword ray instantly flew out from his fingertips and went straight for the weak and helpless little girl's throat. No one could stop the sword ray from cutting her throat. The little girl's pupils rapidly shrank to the size of a needle tip. She was helpless and weak. Crack! Just at this critical moment, a fierce wind and thunder force appeared in the air. A biting cold aura attacked, and a figure as fast as lightning instantly carried the little girl away from where she was standing. Hiss! Although Chu Hen's speed was fast enough, that beam of sword ray still cut through the surface of the little girl's flesh. A stream of bright red blood splashed out like red raindrops on the ice palace door behind the stairs. Swoosh! Chu Hen covered the little girl's neck with one hand and his eyes were as cold as a sword. "Humph, you can't even let go of a defenseless child. You guys have been living like dogs." Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They stared at the strange man who suddenly appeared in surprise. Luolu's face was gloomy. "Trash, you're not dead yet?" Although this was the first time they confronted each other head-on, there had been some skirmishes before. They thought that they had already gotten rid of Chu Hen, but they didn't expect him to appear here unscathed. Buzz buzz. However, at this moment, a strange energy fluctuation suddenly spread from the ice palace's door. Everyone in the room was startled. Their eyes swept to the same place at the same time. They saw that the blood on the little girl's neck that splashed on the door was emitting a soft glow. "What's going on? This is?" Everyone looked at each other. Just now, Luolu and Flower Snake used all their methods but couldn't shake the ice palace door at all. "Her blood can open the ice palace," a disciple from the Imperial Sword sect blurted out. Buzz buzz. Like an ancient restriction that was activated in an instant, the ice palace door that had been sealed for a long time could only be opened by the people from the Northern River Lost clan. A dazzling array pattern quickly appeared on the door. They crisscrossed and circled around each other. In an instant, a circular light glyph formation flickered on the gate of the ice palace. Ring-shaped cyclones slowly rotated in a clockwise direction. The circular glyph array was overflowing with colorful lights, and one luxurious light pattern after another rotated along with it. Zing zing! Like the rubbing of stone walls, the majestic doors of the ice palace were like two heavenly opening passages that had been sealed for tens of thousands of years. The majestic door slowly opened inward. At the same time, a wave of desolate aura that had been sealed for a long time whizzed out from within. Hua! The bone-chilling cold air mixed with the dazzling soft light blew over, and everyone's eyes revealed an unconcealable excitement. Flower Snake of the Huanyu Palace did not say anything. His figure flashed, and he dashed into the ice hall at the fastest speed possible. Humph! Luo of the Imperial Sword Sect immediately left Chu Hen behind and led Qing Xiong and the others into the hall. At the same time, Long Xuanxuang carried the injured Yinyang Beast Noni and supported Shifeng Zi as they rushed over. Looking at the majestic ice hall in front of them, the two of them had expressions of surprise on their faces. Even though it had been buried under the ice for thousands of years, this ice hall still stood tall. Chu Hen, how are you? Long Xuanxuang immediately asked. Chu Hen looked at the little girl who was leaning on him. Her eyes were closed, and her face was as pale as a sheet of paper. She seemed to have fallen into a state of unconsciousness. Look after her. Chu Hen helped the little girl to the side of Long Xuanxuang and said. Long Xuanxuang nodded, took out a healing elixir, and placed it in the little girl's mouth. Following that, Chu Hen took 2 steps into the ice hall's door. In an instant, what appeared in front of Chu Hen's eyes was a magnificent and majestic scene. The interior of the hall was extremely spacious. Giant ice pillars that were thousands of meters tall were arranged neatly, supporting the top of the hall. The surrounding walls were engraved with many exquisite and complicated patterns. Within the hall, there were many dazzling spiritual items and treasures. It's the Snow Spirit Pearl, haha. There's also the Frost Spear. Oh my god, that's a divine weapon. As expected of the Ice Emperor's residence. Every item here is a priceless treasure. The people from the Imperial Sword Gate and Huanyu Palace were like bandits as they quickly looted the treasures in the hall. In the center of the hall there was a square pool. In the middle of the pool there was a bridge. The bridge was very majestic and spanned 100 meters. On both sides of the bridge there were rows of ice railings. Swirls of crystal-colored spiritual liquid flowed in the pool. Shocking energy undulations and bone-chilling coldness permeated the air. This is the Snow Spirit Essence? Someone exclaimed. It can't be wrong. It's definitely the Snow Spirit Essence. Everyone's eyes were filled with greed. The Snow Spirit Essence was the essence of 10,000 years of frost energy. It had a wide range of uses and miraculous effect. The snow monsters that had intercepted them earlier were also products of these Snow Spirit Essences. The crowd took out various containers to store the Snow Spirit Essence in the pool. Passing through the square spiritual pool, there was an ice-sealed throne that looked like an emperor's throne room at the back of the hall. Luxurious crystal-like stairs extended all the way to the front of the throne. The ice-sealed throne had an imposing aura. A formless emperor's aura was emitted from the throne, causing people to tremble and feel a sense of submission. In the void above the unparalleled ice-bound throne, there was an object floating in the air. Looking from afar, the object looked like a jade stone. It was only half an arm's length and had an oval shape. Its entire body was glowing with an icy blue light, and its surface was covered with ancient and mysterious runes. Every talisman engraved on it had a kind of ancient, vigorous feeling. It was clear, beautiful, and dazzling. It was like a meteorite that fell from the North Star cloud in the vast universe. It quietly floated in the air above the ice-sealed throne, unaffected by gravity. Wisps of white ice Xian-Qi lingered around it like tiny horned dragons. When they saw the blue jade stone, everyone from the Imperial Sword Gate and Huanyu Palace could not help but reveal a look of excitement. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion. That is, Ice God Stone. As soon as they finished speaking, Flower Snake and Luolu did not hesitate. Like 2 arrows that had left the bow, they headed straight for the ice-sealed throne at the back of the hall. Give it to me and everything else will belong to you, Flower Snake said coldly. Humph! Luolu laughed coldly, That's a good idea. Unfortunately, it's too naive. So far, the total number of fresh flowers is 50. Subtracting the original 7, it means that the brothers have sent 43 fresh flowers today. According to the agreement, if there are more than 35 fresh flowers, 4 chapters will be updated. Today's task is completed. Although this result is far from enough to enter the fresh flowers list, I still have to thank the brothers for their support, flowers and gift. Tomorrow I will try to update 3 to 4 chapters to thank everyone for their support. Chapter 1189. The Palace of the Ice Emperor, which had been buried under the ice and snow of the northern river for thousands of years, was once again opened. It was like an ancient god that had been picked up by time in the huge palace. It was magnificent, luxurious, and dazzling. In the sky above the frozen throne, an ice-blue jade stone that seemed to have come from the boundless universe was placed there. It's the Ice Divine Stone. Everyone's attention was instantly attracted. The Ice Divine Stone was an item refined by the Ice Emperor. It was a supreme divine item condensed by a supreme almighty from the northern river's endless winter energy. It was rumored that its power was so strong that it could instantly freeze 1,000 miles, causing snow to fall for 10,000 miles, and everything on Earth would be sealed in the winter snow region. It's mine, no one can snatch it from me. That will depend on your ability. Huanyu Palace's flower snake and the imperial sword sex Luolu did not say anything and immediately started a fierce battle for the Ice Divine Stone. As they charged towards the ice-sealing throne at the back of the main hall, powerful quintessential essence auras were released from their bodies. Flower Snake raised one hand, and his seemingly boneless arm actually stretched towards Luolu in an extremely twisted posture. As he moved, Flower Snake's arm directly transformed into a dozen bright and strong snakes. The snakes opened their mouths, and their fangs were coated with poison as they pounced towards Luolu. A hint of disdain appeared in Luolu's eyes. He clenched his 5 fingers, and a piercingly cold longsword fell into his hand. A cold light arrived first, and then the sword shot out like a dragon. An incomparably sharp sword beam shot out diagonally. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The dozen or so large snakes' heads were instantly chopped off by the powerful sword beam, revealing its sharpness like an aurora. Flower Snake's expression slightly changed. He flipped his hand, and his other arm became incomparably sharp. Then, it actually turned into a poisonous scorpion stinger. The stinger flickered with a dim light and extended infinitely, tearing through the air and piercing towards Luolu. The latter's pupils slightly constricted. He held his longsword horizontally and used the body of the sword to block in front of him. Ding! A crisp sound rang out and sparks flew everywhere. True essence surged, and the sharp poisonous scorpion stinger firmly struck the middle of the longsword in Luolu's hand. A ring of dark green venom spread on the sword, directly corroding the true inner force lingering on the sword. The corner of Luolu's eyes narrowed. The poison released by this woman was so overbearing that it could even corrode true inner force. The flower snake raised her eyebrows and revealed a coquettish smile. "Don't fight with me." "Heh!" Luolu replied with disdain. "A mere woman, other than using poison, what else can she do?" Flower Snake giggled. "Let's give it a try then." "Come." Luolu stood up with his sword in hand. The flowery snake scorpion needle was coated with poison. The two forces collided with each other in the main hall, causing violent shockwaves to hit every corner of the ice palace. Deep and neat sword marks appeared on the walls and the icicles. The colorful snake's venomous stinger had a terrifying penetrative power. The 10-meter-wide icicle was easily pierced through like tofu. The dissolved venom was extremely corrosive and emitted a dangerous aura that could kill a person upon contact. Bang! The two people's palms solidly collided with each other. The fierce palm potential and the soft hidden strength were like the impact of a mountain and a flood. A thick true essence light spread out from the palms of the two people. Both of them were sent flying backwards, their bodies spinning in the air. Then, one on the right, one on the left, one on the right, they rushed towards the ice god stone above the frozen throne. They arrived in front of the ice divine stone almost at the same time. Luolu stretched out his palm and used his true inner force to form a huge golden hand. Flower Snake's arm once again turned into a huge, sturdy snake. The golden hand and dozens of snakes grabbed at the ice divine stone at the fastest speed. However, at the instant that the two of them came into contact with the divine ice stone, a strand of white profound energy that went straight to the bone was suddenly released, and the divine ice stone erupted with a dazzling icy blue light. After that, circles of spiraling frost blade cyclones swept out in all directions. Bang! For example, a whirlpool storm that erupted in an instant. A violent force that was comparable to a torrent burst out from within. The moment the golden hand and dozens of snakes touched the ice divine stone, they were all crushed by the sharp, spiraling frost blades. Both of their expressions changed, and then, they were directly thrown back by the violent force. Buzz, buzz! At the same time, the entire ice palace began to shake uneasily. It was as if an ancient seal that had been sealed for tens of thousands of years had been activated. Lines of eye-catching light patterns appeared on the walls of the main hall, every light pattern swayed with a crystal-clear flowing light. The strange light patterns intertwined with each other, like a huge net that covered the walls. The huge net spread to every corner of the ice palace at a speed visible to the naked eye, and from all directions, it circled towards the entrance of the ice palace. It was as if the huge net was about to seal the door. This is? Everyone's heart suddenly surged with a bad premonition. Meanwhile, Flower Snake and Luolu looked at each other, and their eyes once again looked at the ice divine stone floating above the frozen throne. Luolu's eyes turned cold, and a cold light flashed in them. He suddenly backhanded his sword, and the dense sword shadows shrouded Flower Snake like thousands of arrows. Flower Snake's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly responded. However, in this short moment, Luolu immediately seized the initiative. His arrogant sword momentum once again flew towards the ice divine stone. Abnormally dense true inner force gathered on his palms and arms. Looking at the ice divine stone in front of him, his eyes were filled with an intense desire. But a second before Luolu was about to get the ice divine stone, Quang Dang. A thunderous sound stacked up, and a sudden attack of a lightning pillar whizzed towards him, containing a terrifying power. The lightning pillar directly crossed between Luolu and the ice divine stone. Lightning arcs bloomed, and electricity crisscrossed. Bang! The violent power poured down, and Luolu was immediately shaken back. Whoosh! Rapid air waves surged, and a surging power spread out. In front of Luolu, below the ice divine stone, there was suddenly another young figure with a proud aura. The hearts of everyone present were startled. Even Flower Snake's eyes were filled with a trace of surprise. Looking at the figure standing in the air, Luolu's face immediately darkened. "It's you again. You're simply courting death," he shouted fiercely. At the same time, Shifeng Zi, Long Xuanshuang, and Noni entered the palace with the little girl. When he saw the crystal blue light patterns all over the palace walls, Shifeng Zi frowned, and then shouted to Chu Hen, "There's not much time left, the ice hall is about to be closed." Closed? Everyone's expression changed. Luolu's eyes surged with killing intent. And Chu Hen's face was also as cold as frost, and his deep eyes were filled with traces of coldness. "Who will die? It's not certain, ha 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 ha." Luolu was so angry that he laughed, and then a shocking sword momentum erupted from his body. His face was cold and as fierce as ice. "Nobody, I'll cut you into 1,000 pieces right now. Cut into 1,000 pieces." Shing, waves of sharp sword cries resounded, and endless dazzling golden sword rays rapidly intertwined and converged on Luolu's long sword. The thick sword shadows intersected with each other and rapidly fused. In an instant, an illusory golden-scaled divine dragon suddenly rose behind Luolu. "Go to hell. Trash! Roar! The sword was like a shocking dragon, shaking the heavens and earth. The entire ice hall was enveloped by Luolu's aura. Shifeng Zi and Long Xuanxuang had solemn expressions, and there was a trace of worry in their eyes. Luolu brandished his sword, and the golden-scaled dragon behind him flowed along with the sword light, attacking Chu Hen with its claws and fangs bared. Facing the opponent's sword that contained the power to destroy the heavens, a ball of black flame surged in Chu Hen's eyes, and then a strange black light rose from his body. It was accompanied by a series of dark golden ancient runes and secret scrolls. The dense black light fused with the dark golden runes and surged toward Chu Hen's right arm. The surrounding space faintly trembled, and a desolate and ancient aura of the great Tao erupted from Chu Hen's body. In an instant, Chu Hen's right hand powerfully punched out, directly meeting the golden-scaled dragon image that was whistling towards him. Boom! An incomparably heavy explosion immediately surged between heaven and earth, and the violent black flame mixed with countless dense sword chi wantonly flew in all directions. Beams of sword light flew out and struck the walls and stone pillars of the ice hall, leaving behind countless deep marks. The entire ice hall shook violently. But, to everyone's disbelief, Chu Hen actually blocked Luolu's startling dragon sword with his bare hands. Bang! Another violent explosion rang out, causing Luolu's expression to abruptly change. In an instant, a black pillar of spring directly pierced through the golden-scaled dragon silhouette and heavily smashed downwards. Bang! A circle of condensed black light spread out in front of Luolu. His arm trembled violently, and the sword in his hand almost flew out. Bastard! Luolu's eyes widened in anger, and an even more surging murderous aura filled the air. I'm going to kill you! Humph! The corner of Chu Hen's mouth raised in a mocking smile. I'm afraid you won't have this chance. What? Everyone's heartstrings trembled. What? Along with the sound of his voice, an obscure and astonishing power filled the air. Chu Hen's palms faced each other, and strands of blue light quickly overflowed from his fingertips and gathered in his palms. In the blink of an eye, a rhombus-shaped energy body about 20 to 30 centimeters wide floated in the center of Chu Hen's palms. The rhombus-shaped crystal was very bright and beautiful, flashing with gorgeous light. A huge amount of power was completely compressed within it. Its resplendent light illuminated the entire ice hall. Magnificent star jade? Long Xuanxuang's beautiful eyes widened, and her face was filled with astonishment. Huanyu Palace's flower snake's gaze also darkened, and he blurted out, "This is the Northern Star Art. You're from the martial sect." Chu Hen's eyes were like stars, and his palm moved. Star chess seal. Hiss, accompanied by the sharp sound of the air being torn apart, a rapid wave of air dragged through the air. The magnificent star jade in Chu Hen's hand was like an arrow that had left the bow. It was like a shooting star, and it shot toward Luolu in the sky in front of it. The latter's pupils rapidly shrank to the size of a needle. An unprecedented panic appeared in his eyes. Bang! A dull explosion reverberated in the air, and a circle of blood mist danced in the air. A beam of blue meteor light tore through the air, and directly struck Luolu's body, instantly piercing through his chest. Luolu's eyes were wide open, and his face was deathly pale. He lowered his head, and his eyes were filled with dense disbelief. Chapter 1190. Magnificent Star Jade? It's Baichen Ju. You're from the martial sect. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the sharp blue aurora stunned everyone's soul. Star Battle Seal. Like a 1,000-year-old jade shuttle chasing after the moon, it pierced through Luolu's chest with an unstoppable force. Blood rained down from the sky, and a fist-sized hole appeared in Luolu's chest. At this moment, the entire ice hall fell into an unprecedented silence. Their faces were filled with unprecedented shock and astonishment. Blood splattered, and his internal organs were smashed. Luolu's eyes were filled with unwillingness and hatred, and his face was distorted. I'll kill you, I'll kill you. Have a safe trip, I won't send you off. Chu Hen's eyes were cold, and he stretched out his palm. Chi-chi. Dozens of intertwining dark blue lightning bolts pierced through the sky like dragons. An endless destructive aura surged over, and Luolu's eyes reflected the sharp lightning. No! Bang! Accompanied by a rapid and violent explosion, the thunderbolt force blasted down. Under everyone's horrified gazes, Luolu's body exploded into a bloody mist. Imperial sword secked Luolu. In an instant, he died in the ice hall. This was a turn of events that no one had expected. There was no room for mercy. Chu Hen's methods were cold and merciless, starting from the blue hole at the bottom of the northern river and almost killing Shifeng Zi and Noni. Luolu's fate was already determined. At the same time, the bright light patterns that covered the walls of the ice hall had already spread to the entrance of the hall. The wall at the entrance of the hall actually showed a strange distortion. It was like a melting wax wall. The area of the door was rapidly shrinking. It was obvious that this restriction would completely freeze the entire palace. Even the blood of the Northern River Lost clan could not open it again. There's no time, Shifeng Zi reminded. The Imperial Sword sect disciples were already preparing to leave. Once Luolu died, the remaining Qing Xiong and the others did not even have the guts to attack Chu Hen. Everyone from Huan Yu Hall looked at Flower Snake. The latter's gaze was still filled with unwillingness as he stared at the divine ice stone behind Chu Hen. Hee. Flower Snake suddenly changed into a coquettish smile and said, I say, little brother of the martial sect, how about giving me the ice god stone? No matter what request you have, I will be able to satisfy it. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and a chill erupted from his body. With a flip of his hand, he took out the blue sky sword. Swish, the blue Ran sword flashed out of his palm like a streak of flowing light, attacking behind Chu Hen. Hiss! First, there was a trembling sound in the air. Then, the blue sky sword was firmly nailed to a huge ice pillar. At the same time, there was also a finger-sized poisonous snake nailed to the icicle. The venomous snake's body was pierced by the blue sky sword. It twisted its body and struggled, but it was unable to move. Flower Snake's expression changed. He did not expect Chu Hen to be so vigilant. Without any hesitation, Flower Snake leaped and dashed towards the square spirit pool in the center of the hall. Since I can't get the Ice Divine Stone, no one else can. As soon as he finished speaking, Flower Snake raised a shockingly surging palm energy towards the square spirit pool. Bang! The huge square spirit pool exploded immediately. The snow soul essence that had gathered in the pool was like a surging wave that soared into the sky. In an instant, an extremely cold cyclone of cold air rose up and spread out around the hall. Wherever the terrifying snow soul essence's cold air reached, layers of thick ice immediately formed. The faces of the Imperial Sword sect and Huan Yu Hall's disciples in front were filled with horror. Before they could react, they were frozen into ice sculptures by the terrifying energy contained in the snow soul essence. The howling frost spread all the way and surged towards Shifeng Zi and Long Xuanxuang. A cold light flashed across Shifeng Zi's old eyes. An extremely dense Reiki energy erupted from his Naiwan palace. The Reiki energy that blended with each other gathered in front of him and transformed into a dazzling and luxurious tree shadow. Hiss! The bone-piercing cold surged and hit the tree shadow, solidifying into ice. The snow soul essence spread wantonly and accelerated the speed at which the ice hall's door closed. As the dense cold energy spread, the net-like light patterns on the wall shone brightly. The ice hall's door melted rapidly and the exit instantly shrunk to less than half a meter wide. Shifeng Zi turned pale with fright. Oh no! Hee. Flower Snake revealed a complacent smile. He turned around and glanced at Chu Hen. Stay here forever. As soon as he finished speaking, Flower Snake quickly dashed to the melting entrance of the hall. After that, a dazzling light surged out from his body, and then his body actually became slender and long, directly transforming into a multicolored slender snake. He twisted his body and quickly swam out of the narrow exit. Chi! Crack! The moment Flower Snake stepped out, in the next second, the entire palace's door fused together and the only exit was completely sealed. A thick layer of ice directly sealed the entire hall. Streaks of dazzling blue patterns extended upwards and enveloped every area of the palace. The cold energy that permeated the palace gradually calmed down. However, Shifeng Zi's face was filled with seriousness. He looked at Chu Hen and then at Long Xuanxuang. He clenched his teeth and shook his head with a sigh. That flower snake was unexpectedly vicious. In order to trap them, he actually killed his own companions. All the disciples of the Imperial Sword Gate and Huanyu Palace were turned into ice sculptures. The fear they felt before they died could be clearly seen. They probably would not have thought that they would die in such a manner. Looking at the unbridled cold energy that permeated the air, and the ice hall that was covered with restrictive light patterns, Chu Hen's eyes surged with traces of deep coldness. He looked at Shifeng Zi and Long Xuanxuang and did not say anything. He turned to face the ice divine stone that was floating above the ice throne. Chu Hen stepped on the air and walked towards the ice divine stone. With every step he took, the temperature in the air became colder. When he was in front of it, Chu Hen slowly stretched out his right hand towards the ice divine stone. Buzz, a strong repulsive force was released from the ice divine stone. The spiraling cold energy was like a whirlpool formed by a frost blade, emitting an extremely strong grinding force. Facing the terrifying energy ripples transmitted from above, Chu Hen's thoughts moved and a domineering black light was released, covering his entire arm. These 2 days, the flowers and gifts from my brothers have been very helpful. This feeling is like returning to the time when Martial King Deity was first written. Every month we would fight for the rankings. It was very hot-blooded and passionate. However, what I want to say is, my brothers, please do not randomly subscribe to some books that you don't read just to gather flowers for me. That is too much of a waste of money. If you have flowers, then donate. If you don't, then forget it. Don't waste money to buy books that you don't read. Also, when you give gifts, you must say that children should never give gifts. Students who do not have their own independent source of income are all children. It is not easy for parents to earn money. Everyone should cherish it. If you guys give me gifts, I am ashamed to accept it. You guys subscribing to the original chapters is already the greatest support. Of course, tycoons, feel free to do as you please. That was all I had to say. Chapter 1191. When Chu Hen came into contact with the ice divine stone, a powerful ripple of energy was released. A spiral of ice swirled out like a whirlpool of frost, radiating with an extremely powerful grinding force. Chu Hen's eyes darkened slightly. Shortly afterwards, a domineering ball of black light was released from his body. The strange, dense black light was like the flames of hell, enveloping Chu Hen's arms. His arms seemed like the hands of a demonic god. Bang! A series of muffled explosions erupted in the air. The domineering profound ice chi and the strange black light collided violently. Both of Chu Hen's arms directly pierced through the layer of extremely cold ice vortex, firmly grasping the ice divine stone in his hands. Whoosh! Waves of frost seeped out, and a thin layer of ice immediately condensed on Chu Hen's hands. Behind him, Shifeng Zi and Long Xuanxuang both furrowed their eyebrows in shock. It really is the ice divine stone after all. Its power is so terrifying. Chu Hen murmured softly. Soon after, Chu Hen's pupils congealed and a ball of purple flames spread out. Kacha! The ice crystals that covered his arm immediately burst and shattered into pieces. The power of the sacred demonic pupil body and the chaotic body intertwined at the same time, immediately suppressing the icy whirlpool from the ice divine stone. Chu Hen exhaled gently. With a thought, his violet palace of true energy opened, and a whirlpool of true energy quickly spun before him. Along with the powerful ripples of energy, the ice divine stone immediately turned into an illusory light after being enveloped by the black light and purple flames, fusing into Chu-Hen's body. Afterwards, Chu-Hen flew down and flew towards where Shifeng-Zi and Long Xuanxuang were. Meow. Seeing that Chu-Hen had returned, Yin-Yang Beast Noni softly called out. Chu-Hen first glanced at the little girl in Long Xuanxuang's arms. He was still in a deep slumber. It was obvious that what had happened had given her quite a fright. Even her blood can't open the seal? Chu-Hen asked. Shifeng-Zi shook his head. No, this is a newly activated restriction. I think it's to prevent the Ice God Stone from being taken away, so it shouldn't be of any use. Chu-Hen nodded. Then he said, "Step back a bit." The two of them understood and retreated to the side with Noni and the little girl. Buzz. The space trembled slightly, and a thick airflow surged recklessly. Dense black light and dark golden ancient runes overflowed together and wrapped around Chu-Hen's arm. A strange aura of desolation spread out. Chu-Hen's eyes turned cold and he punched out in an instant, a majestic aura that was as ferocious as a torrent erupted. A peerlessly powerful black beam of light struck the location where the Ice Palace's door had originally been. Bang! A heavy explosion sounded, and tens of thousands of thunderbolts surged out. The entire hall shook violently, and the beautiful light patterns on the surrounding walls glowed with a dazzling light. Then, with a boom sound, a violent recoil force turned around. Chu-Hen's expression changed slightly, and he immediately dodged to the side. The violent reverberation force wantonly poured down, directly shattering the disciples of the Huanyu Hall and the Imperial Sword sect who had been frozen into ice sculptures behind them. Shifeng-Zi and Long Xuanxuang were secretly shocked, and their expressions became more and more serious. The former shook his head. "It's useless, this restriction is too strong, it's very difficult to forcefully break it." "Not necessarily," Chu-Hen denied. No matter how strong a restriction was, it would definitely have its weakest point. As long as he continued to attack, he would be able to break the restriction. After saying that, the Demon Eye Sacred Body's bloodline boundary in Chu-Hen's body quietly activated, and his eyes were suffused with traces of demonic purple light. However, at this moment, a ray of light suddenly flashed through Chu-Hen's mind. It was like a shooting star that streaked across the night sky. Following that, the purple light in his eyes gradually faded, and the aura he released also retracted. "I have an idea." Chu-Hen turned around and looked at the two of them. "What?" Long Xuanxuang asked in confusion. Shifeng-Zi narrowed his old eyes, and received the deep meaning in Chu-Hen's eyes. He could not help but reply in a deep voice, "You mean?" Chu-Hen nodded. "From the looks of it, there's no place more suitable than here." After a short exchange of glances, Shifeng-Zi also nodded in agreement. "Sure." Chu-Hen looked at Long Xuanxuang, and his throat moved slightly as he said word by word, "I want to raise your bloodline boundary here." "Wow!" Long Xuanxuang's heartstrings faintly trembled. She looked at Chu-Hen's calm eyes, and her jade-like hands could not help but lightly clench into fists. This was also the reason why they came to the North River. After a series of preparations, they even obtained the Ice God Stone, the most difficult condition to complete. In this way, everything was ready. "Think about it," Chu-Hen said in a deep voice. Long Xuanxuang replied without hesitation, "No need to think about it, I'll listen to you." Without any hesitation. Unconditional trust. This was Long Xuanxuang. Because he was Chu-Hen. The two of them looked at each other, and Chu-Hen smiled warmly. Then, he said to Shifeng-Zi, "Senior, in your current state, can you set up the derivation profound formation?" "Hee, Chu-Hen boy, you really look down on this old man." "That's good, I'll leave the talisman formation to you." As he spoke, Chu-Hen took out an exquisite small bottle and handed it to the other party. "Inside is Chu-Long's bone marrow, the essence extracted from the blood refinement ghost flower and the 5-leaf rain dew grass. Shifeng nodded and received the bottle. Then, Chu Hen took out a small wooden box and handed it to Long Xuanxuang. Body strengthening pill. Long Xuanxuang took the box and received it. At the same time, Chu Hen carried the injured Yinyang beast Noni with one hand and the little girl with the other, and retreated to the corner of the hall. Shifeng and Long Xuanxuang looked at each other. The latter said, "Senior, I'll leave it to you." Shifeng nodded and walked to the empty space in the middle of the ice hall. One had to say the area of the ice hall was really big. Because of this, Shifeng had ample space to display his skills. He let out a deep breath, and his pair of old eyes suddenly became sharp and sharp. A Grandmaster's heroic and majestic aura swept out. Shifeng put his palms together, and his 10 fingers formed a series of seals. In an instant, dazzling talisman characters were born on his fingertip. The dense talisman characters quickly assembled and began to turn into dazzling array patterns that spread in all directions. Chapter 1192. The land of the North River was frozen for thousands of miles. In the Ice Palace, which had been buried under endless ice and snow for thousands of years, wisps of dense ice mystic mist floated in the air. In the middle of the spacious hall, a dazzling array with luxurious light patterns was gradually taking shape under Shifeng's control. The dazzling array patterns intertwined with each other and gathered into a mysterious and complicated pattern with a myriad of brilliance. Derivation Mystic Array. The diameter of the entire array was more than 100 feet wide, almost occupying a quarter of the entire surface area of the Ice Palace. A steady stream of Reiki energy emerged from Shifeng's Naiwan Palace. Under his control, the array continued to be perfected. Compared to his usual ease of doing as he pleased, Shifeng's eyes were full of caution at this moment. It could be seen that he was very cautious about this derivation mystic array in front of him. There was no room for any mistakes. At the corner of the Ice Palace, Chu Hen leaned against the wall and looked at Long Xuanxuang, who was not far away, with a gentle look in his eyes. The latter sat on the ground with her eyes closed and entered a state of meditation. She had to be in the best state to deal with what was about to happen next. Next to Chu Hen, the little girl from the North River Lost Tribe was curled up against him. Chu Hen had purposely put a thick shirt on her body. Although she had suffered a great shock, her breathing was obviously much steadier now. The wound on her neck had also coagulated into a red scab. The Yinyang beast Noni was also lying quietly at Chu Hen's feet, closing its eyes to rest. Suddenly, a strong wave of energy came from the front of Shifeng. Chu Hen looked up and stood up. A dazzling array that looked like a wheel appeared in the open space in the middle of the hall. Rays of dazzling array patterns intertwined and connected from head to tail, forming a series of complicated and strange patterns. Then, Shifeng flipped his hand and an exquisite small bottle appeared in his hand. After undoing the rune restriction on the bottle, a drop of 7-colored spiritual liquid floated out. Traces of soft light surged within the droplet-shaped spiritual liquid. It contained extremely pure and majestic immortal qi, as if the essence was extracted from the divine rainbow after the rain. Shifeng gently held the drop of spiritual liquid in front of him. With a flick of his finger, the spiritual liquid immediately flew towards the center of the talisman array. Buzz! It was like a drop of rain falling into a lake. Circles of gentle ripples spread out in all directions from the center. In an instant, the entire talisman array seemed to be dyed with the color of a divine rainbow. Every formation pattern glowed with a colorful swirl of light in the shape of a gossamer. It was a riot of colors, and the huge ice hall was illuminated by the multicolored light. Shifeng turned around and looked at Chu Hen. "We still need something to stabilize the core of the array," Chu Hen understood tacitly. He immediately stepped forward, and his true essence Violet Palace opened. An astonishing wave of qi spread out, and a rich white light flashed, accompanied by a majestic aura of desolation. In an instant, a black stone tablet that exuded a mysterious and ancient power appeared above the main hall. Buzz buzz! The airflow in the entire palace was faintly trembling. Long Xuanxuang opened her eyes and looked at the scene in front of her with some surprise. Even Noni, who was resting with his eyes closed, looked up curiously. "Is this the divine stone of the Great Path?" Shifengzi murmured softly, his face full of amazement. However, what was even more shocking was that Chu Hen could actually control the power of the divine stone of the Great Path. It was truly admirable. Under Chu Hen's control, the divine stone of the Great Path turned into an ancient stone tablet that was 100 meters tall. Hua, the stone tablet gently landed in the center of the talisman array. A powerful circle of black light spread along the surface of the talisman array. The entire talisman array shook uneasily. Then, the interweaving talisman patterns quickly climbed up the surface of the divine stone of the Great Path and intertwined with the dark golden ancient runes. Seeing that there was no rejection between the divine stone of the Great Path and the mystic derivation formation, Shifengzi's eyes were even more surprised. He looked at Chu Hen and nodded to himself. To be honest, Shifengzi was a little skeptical before. After all, the divine stone of the Great Path was the most ancient divine item. Not many people in the world had even seen it, let alone control its power. Now, the last shred of doubt in his heart disappeared like smoke. Very quickly, the runes of the mystic derivation formation climbed up the surface of the divine stone of the Great Path and surrounded it. "Senior." Chu Hen glanced at him. Shifengzi nodded solemnly. He clasped his hands together and crossed his fingers. A thick aura of righteousness filled the air. "Activate." Hua! A mighty wave of air swept out in all directions. The thick layer of ice covering the ground of the ice hall cracked inch by inch. Countless dazzling beams of light shone from the large runes. Accompanied by a sharp gust of wind, the majestic power of the talisman array operated steadily. A steady stream of power poured into every rune of the talisman array from the divine stone of the Great Path. Thousands of strands of soft light rose into the air and gathered above the divine stone of the Great Path. Then, under Chu Hen and Shifengzi's heated gazes, a small mystic derivation formation appeared above. It was overflowing with light, like a divine disk. The small mystic derivation formation floating above the divine stone of the Great Path was like a projection of the large mystic derivation formation below. It floated in the air like a sky platform. At this point, the first 2 steps were completed. "You can take out the divine ice stone now," Shifengzi said. Chu Hen nodded slightly. He flipped his palm and waved a white light. Amidst the white light, an icy blue jade stone flew directly toward the small mystic derivation formation above the divine stone of the Great Path. It didn't move. The divine ice stone floated in the center of the formation. Buzz! The intense energy fluctuations caused space to tremble faintly. Streaks of light that looked like vines wrapped around the ice god's stone. In an instant, the surface of the talisman array was covered in a layer of white frost. "The power is a bit domineering. I don't know if I can withstand it." Shifengzi's eyes were filled with worry. Chu Hen didn't answer him. Instead, he turned to look at Long Xuanxuang, who had already stood up. The latter pursed her red lips. Her beautiful eyes didn't waver. There was no need for too much communication. Both of them knew what the other was thinking. Chu Hen sighed softly, then said, "No matter what, I will make sure you're fine." Long Xuanxuang nodded. "Get ready to begin," Chu Hen said. With that, Long Xuanxuang took out the pure source solidifying pill from the wooden box. Her fair and slender fingers gently held the pill and placed it in her mouth. In the next instant, a ball of holy golden light flowed out of Long Xuanxuang's body. Her snow-white skin also flashed with golden light. Her entire body seemed to be bathed in the divine light. Immediately, Long Xuanxuang stepped into the air. Her graceful figure floated like a spirit goose toward the mystic derivation formation above the divine stone of the Great Path. Under the watchful eyes of Chu Hen and Shifeng Zi, Long Xuanxuang sat down in front of the divine ice stone in the center of the formation. Looking at the flowing light in front of her, the ice-blue jade stone that emitted an endless chilly aura, Long Xuanxuang gently reached out her hands and placed them on the divine ice stone. Whoosh! In an instant, a strong white cyclone quickly surged out. At the same time, countless interweaving formation patterns wrapped around Long Xuanxuang's delicate body. She closed her beautiful eyes and sank into a meditative state. The mystic derivation formation below the divine stone of the Great Path immediately activated. Along with a thick wave of air, a chaotic spiral of air currents rose up in the entire ice hall, with the mystic derivation formation acting as the pivot, the boundary power of Long Xuanxuang's bloodline quietly connected with the power contained in the divine ice stone. The divine ice stone shone brilliantly. An unparalleled 10,000-year-old ice Xian power continuously flowed into the formation, then flowed through the formation patterns, and finally entered Long Xuanxuang's body. Everything seemed to be going smoothly. Every step was exceptionally stable. Feeling the gradual increase in power, Long Xuanxuang, Chu Hen, and Shifeng Zi's brows unconsciously relaxed. "Looks not bad," Shifeng Zi said with a sigh of relief. Even though he had spent his entire life researching various rune techniques and was also proficient in the rune power of various major fields. But for him, upgrading the boundary of his bloodline was a first. Especially from a Xian body to a saint body, a high-level upgrade. Therefore, Shifeng Zi did not have much confidence. However, in the next moment, an unexpected situation occurred without any warning. Buzz! With a startled sound, the divine ice stone floating in front of Long Xuanxuang suddenly emitted a strong and uneasy rhythm. Long Xuanxuang's delicate body trembled, and her delicate eyebrows could not help but frown slightly. What was going on? Chu Hen and Shifeng Zi revealed a puzzled expression. Then, the figures, birds, and beasts engraved on the four walls of the ice hall all simultaneously transformed into a series of dazzling lights. Whoosh! It was like a roar of frost. Streaks of illusory white light flashed from each of the patterns. Like a mysterious ghost in a blizzard. Dozens of illusory shadows shrouded the sky above the divine ice stone and gathered. Balls of majestic whirlwinds gathered in the sky above the main hall. All the illusory shadows merged and immediately transformed into a huge figure like a dream. The figure's facial features were blurred, and its face seemed to be covered by a veil. It floated above the divine ice stone, indifferently looking at the ground, like a snow demon in a world of ice and snow. Slowly opening its arms, it embraced Long Xuanxuang in a split second. The speed of the derivation profound assimilation formation increased exponentially. The power that poured into Long Xuanxuang's body instantly became more violent by more than 10 times. The influx of this power had already exceeded the scope of what she could bear. Under the horrified gaze of Chu Hen and Shifeng Zi, a thick layer of ice quickly condensed on Long Xuanxuang's body, and the ice was constantly intensifying. Chapter 1193. Not good. This is the second layer of restriction on the divine ice stone. Shifeng Zi's eyes were wide open. His old face was filled with shock. Wind and frost like swords, ice whirlpools like knives. Thousands of illusory lights and shadows flowed out from the walls of the hall from all directions and gathered above the hall. The two profound derivation formations above and below the divine ice stone emitted a restless energy. Endless cold ice whirlpools filled the air above the divine ice stone. Countless illusory shadows intertwined to form a blurry snow demoness. The snow demoness spread open her arms and embraced the divine ice stone along with Long Xuanxuang. Long Xuanxuang's delicate body lightly trembled. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted and her beautiful face was filled with traces of paleness. In an instant, the aura emitted by the other party immediately weakened. Layers of crystal-clear frost spread out from Long Xuanxuang's fingertips and spread to her entire body at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a blink of an eye, Long Xuanxuang was directly enveloped by a layer of ice. Why is it like this? Chu Hen's gaze sank as he asked. Shifeng Zi shook his head. His gaze swept across the huge palace and finally landed on the illusion of the snow demoness in the air. He also frowned and said, "It seems that the master of this place doesn't want us to obtain the power of the divine ice stone so easily." Chu Hen clenched his fists. "Stop the profound derivation formation." "No," Shifeng Zi firmly rejected. "Once the profound derivation formation is stopped, the power contained in the divine ice stone will be even more uncontrollable." Shifeng Zi did not continue speaking. Even so, even if the profound derivation formation were to continue, the power of the divine ice stone would still continue to flow into Long Xuanxuang's blood. Looking at the current situation, Long Xuanxuang would not be able to hold on for long. It was a dilemma. She could not advance or retreat. Looking at the divine ice stone that was constantly releasing powerful energy, Chu Hen was incomparably anxious in his heart. The layer of ice around Long Xuanxuang was getting thicker and thicker. She was like an exquisite ice sculpture. At the same time, her aura was rapidly weakening. His life force fluctuations were rapidly draining away. Shifeng Zi turned his head away. He could not bear to look at her. Chu Hen clenched his fists tightly. His nails dug deep into his palms, and warm blood flowed out from the gaps between his fingers. Looking at Long Xuanxuang's exquisite and beautiful side profile through the ever-thickening ice, Chu Hen felt as if he was stuck in a quagmire. "No matter what, I won't let anything happen to you." Just a moment ago, he had said those words to her. But now, he was in a dangerous situation. The main reason is because the Ice God Stone triggered the second restriction, causing the power to go out of control, right? Chu Hen's voice was a little hoarse and low. Shifeng Zi gave him a sidelong glance. Chu Hen continued, "What if someone else bears half of the power for her? Don't tell me you want to." Shifeng Zi's expression changed again. "You can't do that. That's ice-type power. Apart from those with the same attribute bloodline, no one else can tolerate it. Moreover, without the protection of the pure source consolidation pill, only death awaits." However, before Shifeng Zi could finish speaking, Chu Hen directly stepped into the air and shot towards Long Xuanxuang like an aurora. "Chu Hen boy!" Shifeng Zi shouted to stop him. "Woo!" Even the yin-yang beast, Noni, let out a low growl. But Chu Hen seemed not to hear it. He directly stepped into the icy whirlwind that enveloped the divine Tao stone. Whoosh! The icy whirlwind was like a roar of frost. Sharp whirlwinds scraped against Chu Hen's body, as sharp as steel blades. Thin and shallow wounds quietly appeared on Chu Hen's face and the back of his hand. But he did not stop at all. He directly stepped into the small derivation profound formation above him. He quickly arrived at the heart of the formation and stood in front of Long Xuanxuang. Looking at the cold and beautiful face that was sealed under the frost, Chu Hen sat in front of her. Then, he stretched out his palms and placed his palms on the ice god stone floating in the heart of the formation. "Stop!" Shifeng Zi shouted again. Buzz, as his voice fell, an even more intense energy fluctuation surged from the ice god stone between Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang. A powerful and piercingly cold white whirlwind swept in all directions. Streaks of brilliant and colorful array patterns immediately climbed up Chu Hen's entire body. Then, the power of the bloodline boundary in Chu Hen's body rapidly circulated, and a strange purple light spread out from his body. At the same time, the majestic power that originated from the ice god stone surged into Chu Hen's body like a terrifying undercurrent at the bottom of a glacier. It was irresistible and extremely cold, without the protection of the pure source solid pill. In an instant, Chu Hen felt as if the major meridians in his body were about to explode. From head to toe, he felt as if he had fallen into an icy cavern. This kind of pain was much more intense than what Long Xuanxuang had experienced. Even so, Chu Hen's hands were still tightly pressed against the ice god stone, not moving even an inch. Chu Hen closed his eyes and did his best to control every bit of power that surged into his body. However, all the blood vessels in Chu Hen's body began to rupture. Streams of blood flowed out and quickly solidified. A thick layer of ice began to form along Chu Hen's arms and spread to his entire body. Soon, it turned into a second sparkling and translucent ice sculpture. Seeing this scene, Shifeng Zi's face was full of helplessness, his old eyes filled with loneliness. Why did he have to do this? Long Xuanxuang was just surprised. No one wanted to see anything happen to her. But Chu Hen was too impulsive. Sob, sob. Noni whimpered softly, his round eyes filled with sadness. Ice and snow roared, and the wind and frost raged. The illusion of the snow banshee appeared in the air, overlooking the entire palace. An endless amount of winter energy was released. The two ice sculptures of Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang were constantly covered by ice, then the two ice sculptures fused into an even bigger ice sculpture. It was like a small ice mountain. The two of them, along with the ice god stone, were imprisoned within. Meow. At this moment, Noni suddenly let out a high-pitched cry. Shifeng Zi was startled. He raised his head and looked over. He saw Chu Hen, who was covered in dense purple flames, emitting a strange black light once again. Buzz, buzz, bursts of powerful energy fluctuations spread out, and a dense black light flowed out, quickly transforming into a human-shaped shadow. The shadow continued to rapidly increase in size. Its arms and body became solid and sturdy, forming a huge black shadow behind Chu Hen. The incomparably powerful aura directly shook the illusion of the snow banshee in the air. It was like a demonic god confronting the dreamlike snow banshee. Looking from afar, the snow banshee was behind Long Xuanxuang, hugging her in her arms. The demonic god was like a guardian god standing behind Chu Hen. The aura emitted by the two figures was unyielding, one cold, the other domineering. This is? Shifeng Zi's eyes were wide open, his heart was incomparably shocked. Following that, something even more unexpected happened. All of the ice god stone's energy that entered Chu Hen's body actually calmed down, like water filling up a dried-up river bed, no longer violently repelling it. How could this be? Shifeng Zi's heart trembled, he was extremely shocked. It's actually compatible. The boundary of the non-ice attribute bloodline was actually compatible with the tyrannical cold energy of the ice god stone. Impossible. This kind of thing was simply impossible. However, the truth was right in front of him. Shifeng Zi had no choice but to believe it. Shifeng Zi's gaze was fixed on the black figure of the demonic god behind Chu Hen. His deep old eyes revealed an indescribable complex expression. Chapter 1194. The huge ice hall was filled with cold air. Waves of cold air flowed in all directions. In the center of the hall, a luxurious and dazzling large glyph formation was spinning rapidly. The profound assimilation formation was derived. The great Tao Divine Stone was used to suppress the heart of the formation. An endless stream of ancient power continued the formation's operation. Above the great Tao Divine Stone, there was a small glyph parallel to the ground. Above the glyph formation, the tens of meters tall ice was like a small iceberg, sealing Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang within it. The two sat facing each other in the ice. The ice divine stone floating in front of them flashed with a soft, icy blue light. On the other hand, the image of a demoness that was suffused with a boundless chilly aura and the image of a fiend god that emanated supreme divine might hovered in the sky behind them respectively. The profound assimilation formation acted as the pivot. The boundless divine power from the ice divine stone entered Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang's bodies. The two's auras grew at a rapid and steady rate. Shifeng Zi watched this scene quietly from below. In his eyes, there was still a hint of astonishment that had yet to completely subside. Looking at the layer of ice in the ice vortex, even though the two of them were still sealed in ice, their auras were gradually stabilizing. Long Xuanxuang's fading life force also became strong again. He had thought that this accident would not be able to stop Long Xuanxuang's death. But at the critical moment, Chu Hen had pulled her back from the abyss. Compatible with the power of the Ice Divine Stone. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Shifengzi would not have believed what was happening in front of him. He did not have his own ice attribute bloodline as a support. He did not have the protection of the clear source strengthening pill. Any one of these factors was enough to kill Chu Hen on the spot. But at the last moment there was a turn of events. Is this the power of controlling the great Tao Divine Stone? Shifengzi murmured softly. Apart from the surprise, the shock in Shifengzi's eyes gradually turned into relief, and the worry on his face slowly faded. No wonder his expression did not change when he was trapped in this ice hall. It turned out that he had underestimated Chu Hen from the very beginning. Immediately, Shifengzi carried Noni to the inner steps of the ice palace and sat down. Who knows how long we'll have to wait? I hope it won't be too boring. Noni narrowed his eyes and licked the fur on his front paw. Not long after, a soft sobbing sound came from the corner of the hall. Shifengzi glanced sideways and saw the little girl from the Beichuan Lost Clan huddled alone at the foot of the wall, trembling and crying softly. Shifengzi was startled. He had forgotten about her. He got up and walked towards the other party. Although Shifengzi's face was gentle and kind, the little girl who had been greatly frightened still had a terrified look on her face. She lowered her head, not daring to look up. Shifengzi paused for a moment, then retreated. After a while, the little girl stopped crying, but she still lowered her head, placed her hands on her knees, and buried her head in the crook of her arms. She seemed to be muttering about the big white bear from before. At this moment, she faintly felt a furry little paw touch the back of her foot. She raised her head subconsciously, and her clear eyes reflected a delicate and cute black and white kitten. The girl was obviously stunned, as if she was a little surprised. The kitten stretched out its little paw and touched her little toe, then rolled on the ground. Its adorable look made the girl laugh. Obviously, compared to humans, she was more willing to interact with little beasts. Then, the kitten waved its paw, stood up, and rolled on the ground. This made the little girl laugh out loud, and she quickly forgot the sadness from before. "Thank you for making me happy." The girl gently rubbed the kitten's head, then said, "Do you have a name?" "My name is Qingshu. It's called Noni." Hearing the sudden voice, the little girl's heart skipped a beat. Raising her head, she saw Shifengzi's kind and gentle face. Noni turned around and walked to Shifengzi's side, then squatted by his feet and looked at Qingshu in front of him. It was as if it was telling the other party that the grandpa next to it was not a bad person. Perhaps it was because she was familiar with Noni just now. Qingshu tried not to avoid Shifengzi's gaze. "New Noni? Did you give it that name? Are you its owner?" she asked timidly. "I'm not its owner, its previous owner gave it that name." "Then its owner must like it a lot, right?" "No. On the contrary, its previous owner almost killed it." Why?" Qingshu looked at the other party and Noni in shock. "Because its previous owner was a bad person, and it didn't want to listen to bad people, so it almost died. Then its current owner adopted it. And because its current owner is very kind, Noni is also very kind, it just doesn't want you to be too sad." Listening to Shifengzi's explanation, Qingshu pursed her lips, looked at Noni, then nodded. "I see. Then is its current owner here too?" Shifengzi shook his head, smiled kindly, and said, "Not yet. If there's a chance, I'll introduce him to you. He's not much older than you. I think the two of you will become good friends." Qingshu's eyes lit up, but then dimmed. "I can't leave the Northern Plains snow region. I have to protect this place." "Protect this place? What about the other Northern Plains lost clan members?" Qingshu shook her head. "After Grandpa died, only Dabai and I were left. Then Bai also. At this point, Qingshua's eyes turned slightly red again. Shifengzi sighed softly in his heart. He couldn't help but feel some sympathy. A 10-year-old child was guarding this wintry land all by himself. It made people's hearts ache for him. He thought of the time in Ice City. "I'm sorry, Grandpa." Qingxue wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes, then asked, "Grandpa, what do you do?" Shifengzi was a little touched. Then he said with a smile, "I'm a pattern caster." "Pattern caster?" "I heard from Grandpa that pattern caster is a very noble and very powerful kind of person." Shifengzi hesitated for a moment. Then, he clenched his fist and a dozen or so beautiful runes flowed out from his fingertip. The runes intertwined and circled around each other before transforming into a ball of white light. The ball of light gradually transformed into the shape of a white bear. "Bai," Qingxue called. Buzz, waves of strange energy waves spread out, and the white bear transformed into the illusory images of eagles, lions, tigers, and so on. Qingxue exclaimed repeatedly, "So powerful!" Shifengzi clenched his fist, and the light in his palm shattered into thousands of pieces and dissipated into the air. Then he asked, "Do you want to learn?" Qingxue, who was completely attracted by the magical changes in front of her, nodded without hesitation. "Okay then, I'll teach you from the most basic." Maybe it was because of sympathy. Or maybe it was because of the boring waiting time. Shifengzi actually began to explain the most basic attributes of the symbols, the definition of pattern caster, and what Reiki energy was. Qingxue also seemed to have let down her guard, no longer afraid of Shifengzi, and listened attentively. As a result, Yin-Yang Beast Noni was a little bored. It looked at Shifengzi and Qingxue, then turned to look at Chu Hen and Long Xuanshuang, who were above the great Tao Divine Stone. After circling around twice, it actually walked toward the center of the hall. Noni slowly walked to the center of the hall. Then, it actually walked to the edge of the profound derivation array, then lay down beside the talisman array, and curled up into a ball. At the same time, a black and white light pattern surged out of its body, buzz buzz. A strange energy wave came from behind. Shifengzi suddenly turned around, and couldn't help but squint at the scene in front of him. A wisp of yin and yang energy actually separated from the great Tao Divine Stone in the center of the profound derivation array. In the stable operation of the talisman array, that wisp of energy was like a river in the vast ocean. The yin and yang energy diverged along the light pattern at the edge of the talisman array, and slowly flowed into Noni's body. Shifengzi was startled, and couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 1195. Snow and ice danced in the air. Time passed by, and nothing happened. As the days passed, the world inside the ice temple seemed to be isolated from the outside world. In the blink of an eye, almost a year had passed. With the help of the great Tao Divine Stone's divine power, the derivation profound assimilation formation was still operating smoothly. Above the great Tao Divine Stone, Chu Hen and Long Xuanshuang were still sealed in a thick layer of ice. Shifengzi stood under the talisman formation and looked at the two people above him. "It's almost been a year. I thought it would be a little boring, but it doesn't seem so." "Grandpa Master, I can control the fire runes now." At this moment, a clear and sweet voice came from behind. Shifengzi turned around and looked. His eyes were filled with kindness and gentleness. Qingshue's small hands were holding a ball of scorching crimson flame, while a few runes were circling around her other hand. The runes were fusing in her palm, and with a sizzling sound, the runes rotated rapidly, before condensing into a small wind blade, and the whirlwind rune. Qingshue's eyes were shining. With one hand holding the flame and the other holding the whirlwind, she waved at Shifengzi and said to the yin-yang beast that was lying not far away, "Noni, I succeeded, didn't I, meow?" Noni called out softly in response. In the past year, Shifengzi had taken on the role of Qingshue's master. From the most basic low-level runes to helping Qingxue open her Naiwen palace and condense the Tao seed, Shifeng did everything very carefully. It was as if he was teaching from a blank piece of paper. In less than a year, not only did Qingxue successfully upgrade the Tao seed to the street tree, but she also displayed an extraordinary talent in runes. This was definitely out of Shifeng expectation. Previously, he was just pitying the child. Plus, he wanted to kill some time. He did not expect her talent in runes to be far beyond his imagination. Later on, Shifeng thoughts also gradually changed. He started to let Qingxue address him as master, and started to teach her the art of runes. Day after day, month after month, Shifeng had unconsciously taken him as his own personal disciple. Little Shui, you've improved a little again. Shifeng revealed a benevolent smile, and immediately walked in front of him. Now you're a beginner rune artist. Beginner pattern maker? Me? Grandpa Shifu, what kind of tattoo artist are you? Zong stage. Shifeng replied. Although Qingxue did not know the difference between the primary level and the Zong level, in her eyes, Shifeng was the most outstanding person. Grandpa Master, can I also become a Zong level rune master in the future? She asked curiously. No. Shifeng shook his head in denial, and then said with incomparable determination, You will become a more powerful engraving master than a Zong stage, stronger than a Zong master? What's that? A level that even I can't reach. If even Grandpa Master can't reach it, then it's even more impossible for me. Shifeng laughed loudly and patted her head. Of course you can. I'll help you reach that level. And I'll do my best. Qingxue nodded vigorously. She was so obedient that it made people want to love her. Seeing such a sensible child, Shifeng eyes surged with some comfort. In reality, as he grew older, Shifeng also knew that his potential was gradually being exhausted. If he had not obtained the immortal rune spirit tree, in the ancient desolate heaven domain, it would have been very difficult for him to become a Zong-level rune master. Although his understanding of runes far surpassed other Zong-level rune masters of the same level, there was not much room for improvement in the realm. After studying the art of runes for his entire life, Shifeng was eager to impart what he had learned to others. He turned around and looked at the young figure sealed in ice above the god's stone of the great Tao. That young man was originally someone that he liked. However, as they got to know each other better, Shifeng gradually understood that he was not qualified to be Chu Hen's master. The strength of the other party was far beyond Shifeng's imagination. Even if it was only in the field of runes, their relationship was just that of a teacher and a friend. Moreover, it was more inclined towards the latter. Therefore, Shifeng had never revealed his true thoughts to anyone. Qingxue's appearance brought quite a surprise to Shifeng. She, who had never come into contact with runes, was as clean as a piece of white paper and as intelligent as a pearl. Moreover, she was only 12 or 13 years old. Shifeng was very confident that under his guidance, Qingxue's future achievements would definitely surpass his. Therefore, the past year was not boring at all. Buzz buzz. Suddenly, at this moment, a slight tremor of the earth suddenly spread out. What's going on? Shifeng was shocked. Qingxue also revealed an uneasy expression. Grandpa Master, is someone here again? Shifeng did not answer, but looked around with a serious expression. The light patterns on the walls of the ice palace flickered, emitting bursts of strong energy waves. At this moment, the impregnable restriction was actually touched. Buzz buzz. The tremor became more and more intense, and the entire palace was shaking. Yin-Yang Beast Noni also stood up, its vertical cat eyes staring at the sky above the palace. Woo! It roared in a low voice. Kacha! In the next moment, the giant icicle standing in the middle of the palace started to crack. At the same time, the airflow in the entire palace became restless and surged wantonly. Boom! An incomparably heavy sound suddenly exploded above everyone's head. Immediately after, the ice palace shook violently, and the surrounding walls cracked rapidly. Accompanied by the rumbling of wind and thunder, the roof of the palace suddenly exploded, and huge icicles and bricks fell down one after another. An earth-shattering hurricane rushed in like a wild current. What? Looking at the broken top of the palace, Shifeng Zi's expression changed. Like the undercurrent of the deep sea, the cold hurricane howled and filled the huge ice palace. The majestic ice pillars collapsed with a loud rumble. In the sky above the ice palace, wind and thunder raged, covering the sky and covering the earth. Under Shifeng Zi's shocked gaze, a terrifying majestic hurricane whirlpool stirred up the heaven and earth, tearing the sky apart. Thunderstorm, nebula whirlpool. Countless violent black lightning flashed like lightning dragons, emitting the power to destroy the heaven and earth. This is... Shifeng Zi's eyes widened, and his voice trembled as he spat out two words: divine tribulation. Divine tribulation. Kacha. At the same time, the layer of ice where Long Xuanxuang was quietly cracked. Chapter 1196. Divine Tribulation. Beichuan Ice Palace, which had been silent for a year, was now facing the terrifying divine tribulation with a violent aura. Thunder roared in the sky above the ice palace, and the sky was about to crack. Rolling thunderstorms instantly enveloped the entire huge palace. Boom! The thick layer of ice that enveloped Long Xuanxuang instantly cracked. Accompanied by a vast and powerful aura, countless icy whirlpools rapidly circled around her. Above her, thousands of lightning tribulations roared and flashed across the sky. In the center of the thundercloud vortex, where power was rapidly brewing, countless majestic divine thunderbolts rapidly gathered together. Every single bolt of lightning was emitting a terrifying aura. The divine tribulation was about to arrive. Her divine physique was about to be formed. Rumble! Heaven and earth trembled, and the space was about to crack. As fast as lightning, countless cloud tribulations surged like black waves. The enormous nebula was like a huge millstone that blotted out the sky and covered the sun, accompanied by a violent tornado that tore through the sky. Black divine lightning with a destructive aura descended from the sky. Its aura was monstrous, and it was like a meteorite falling from the sky. Endless destructive aura enveloped them, and Shifeng Zi, Qingxue, and Noni could not stand steadily. They felt as if they were shouldering the pressure of a mountain. Whoosh! A piercingly cold whirlpool spread out, and Long Xuanxuang opened her eyes. Her eyes that were as bright as the moon were surging with a frosty aura. An extremely cold and arrogant aura was emitted. Long Xuanxuang moved, and she actually flew towards the descending divine tribulation. The high-speed spinning ice whirlpool enveloped her like a protective frost armor. An extremely shocking bloodline boundary power erupted, and a formless and powerful aura shot into the sky. Boom! Bang! In an instant, the terrifying lightning tribulations that pierced through the sky exploded one after another, turning into blossoming lightning fireworks that lit up the sky. A heavy and violent shockwave swept out in all directions. The walls around the palace cracked inch by inch, and the buildings and stone pillars collapsed. The entire palace was on the verge of collapse. Shifeng Zi narrowed his eyes and clasped his palms together. Reiki energy surged out. Immortal tree barrier. Kacha, along with the sound of his voice, the ground at the edge of the hall immediately cracked open, and crystal-clear trees quickly extended out from the ground. The sturdy branches intertwined with each other like dragons. In the blink of an eye, it had grown into a towering tree that was over 100 meters tall. The towering trees acted as collapsed pillars, supporting the crumbling walls of the palace and preventing it from collapsing. However, shortly after, a thunderous sound came from the chaotic sky again. Shifeng Zi's heart skipped a beat. He saw that the incomparably chaotic thunderstorm was actually brewing up an incomparably huge lightning tribulation. 2 divine tribulations? Shifeng couldn't help but clench his fists tightly, and there was surprise in his eyes. As far as he knew, there was only one divine tribulation for a profound body to become a divine body. It was very rare for two divine tribulations to occur. This could only happen if the bloodline boundary was strong to a certain extent. Rumble! The deafening sound caused one's blood to boil, and one's mind to tremble. The huge black lightning that pierced through the 9 heavens was like a huge dragon that swooped down. Long Xuanxuang was below it, and she was as small as a butterfly in a storm. Even if it was 1,000th of its power, it would be enough to make her die in an instant. However, Long Xuanxuang didn't have the slightest bit of fear. Her eyes were like autumn water, and her hair was like black silk. There were faint ripples in her gentle eyes, her long dress danced in the air, and her sleeves fluttered. An extremely powerful aura leaked out. In an instant, a white shadow that emitted a dreamy aura appeared in the sky behind her. The cold aura of winter filled the sky, and the white shadow was like a snow-wind demoness with a veil covering her face. It slowly opened its arms and embraced Long Xuanxuang. Clang! The black lightning that tore the sky and split the earth struck down with the power of a shocking dragon that could destroy everything. The monstrous power that could destroy heaven and earth shook the entire place. Bang! A violent turbulence surged in the sky above the ice temple. Endless lightning exploded in the sky, and an incomparably huge lightning flower bloomed like a lightning lotus. The earth-shattering shock wave caused the entire sky above the ice temple to sink into an unprecedented chaos. The space was distorted, as if it could split open at any time. In the center of the power of the lightning, Long Xuanxuang was like a beautiful and refined snow lotus, noble and elegant. The snow-wind demoness white shadow protected him under her body, withstanding the violent impact of the black lightning tribulation. Seeing this scene, Shifeng let out a sigh of relief. His heart that was hanging in the air couldn't help but relax. Rumble! The violent nebula vortex that enveloped the sky above the ice temple gradually stabilized. Following that, tens of thousands of golden lights poured down from the dense layers of clouds, like the first rays of dawn, enveloping Long Xuanxuang's body. She seemed to be bathing in the divine golden light, emitting an extraordinary holy aura. At the same time, the boundless cold ice vortex that filled the surroundings revolved around Long Xuanxuang's body. Then, the ice vortex rapidly condensed, turning into strands of white light that flowed towards the center of her eyebrows. Her beautiful long hair fluttered in the wind, and her eyes were clear and bright. The strands of white light converged between Long Xuanxuang's eyebrows, turning into a bright snowflake pattern. It was sparkling and resplendent, like a star. Ancient, eternal realm. Feeling the powerful aura from Long Xuanxuang, Shifeng nodded and muttered. Such an aura had most likely reached the 6th level of the ancient, eternal realm. Looking at the snowflake spirit pattern between Long Xuanxuang's eyebrows, Qingxue couldn't help but say in a low voice, "It seems to be the symbol of Lord Ice Empress." Ice Empress? Shifeng was inwardly surprised. But on second thought, the Ice God Stone was a supreme divine object refined by Ice Empress with the power of the 10,000 years of cold winter in the north. Long Xuanxuang had used the Ice God Stone as the cornerstone to evolve the boundary of her bloodline, which was equivalent to indirectly obtaining the power of Ice Empress inheritance. In Qingshue's eyes, it was naturally somewhat familiar and similar. The powerful aura gradually converged, and the light pattern between Long Xuanxuang's eyebrows also concealed. She first turned around to look at Chu Hen, who was still sealed in the layer of ice, and a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. Then, she flew down and landed on the ground. Senior West Wind. Shifeng nodded slightly. "You've finally succeeded, congratulations." A glimmer of light flashed in Long Xuanxuang's eyes, and she immediately asked, "Why is Chu Hen also up there?" Shifeng narrowed his old eyes, sighed softly, and nodded, "Because there's a problem." Immediately, Shifeng-zi recounted the accident that happened before, as well as the cause and effect of Chu-hen disregarding the obstruction to enter the formation. After listening, Long Xuanxuang couldn't help but feel touched. She clenched her jade-like hands, a pair of beautiful eyes filled with complex emotions as she looked at the young figure sealed in the ice. She didn't expect Chu-hen to take such a big risk for her. Why hasn't he woken up yet? Long Xuanxuang asked. Shifeng-zi shook his head in confusion. I don't know either. He also didn't know anything about Chu-hen's condition now. And, at this moment, a strange power began to quietly overflow from the top of the great Tao Divine Stone. The two were startled and looked up, only to see a series of cracks rapidly appearing on the ice around Chu-hen. The power became clearer, the waves more intense, and a demonic purple light rose. Boom! With a loud explosion, the sky was filled with ice crystal shards like a tide surging in all directions. In an instant, a vast aura even stronger than before spread out. Endless purple light stacked up like a tide. Bang, bang, bang! All of the towering trees that Shifeng-zi had condensed exploded at the same time. On the ground, incomparably deep cracks rapidly extended out of the walls. The huge ice palace shook unsteadily, and all sorts of buildings and ice pillars collapsed to the ground. Like an ancient monster that had broken free of its cage, or a flood that had broken through a dam, he was like a primordial undercurrent. A howling purple light shot up from Chu-hen's body into the sky. Zing! A strong spatial rhythm was released, and Chu-hen's eyes suddenly opened. His incomparably bewitching purple pupils shone with brilliance, and the 5 black dots slowly rotated. In the next instant, one of the dots vibrated violently and split into 2. In an instant, 6 black dots appeared in the depths of Chu-hen's pupils. There seemed to be a heavy trembling sound between heaven and earth, evil and unparalleled, like the supreme aura of a demon god, shaking heaven and earth. Inside Chu-hen's body, there seemed to be a ferocious ancient beast roaring. 6-star demon eyes awakened. Chapter 1197. 6-star demon eyes awakened. Within the purple mansion world of true essence, the stars moved and the universe of all things. An earth-shattering aura swept through the 9 heavens, the vast and boundless true inner force surged like the sea. In the sky above the true inner force that flowed like a river, the originally transparent purple mansion Saint Soul seemed to be much more solid than before. The aura it released was also stronger and more powerful. At this moment, the illusory Saint Soul slowly opened its eyes. Its deep eyes were as vast as the sea of stars. The aura emitted from every inch of his body was exactly the same as Chu-hen's original body. Then, the Saint Soul Phantom lifted its gaze and looked into the sky. There, a pair of huge purple eyes of the demon god floated in the sky, looking down on all things. The 5 dots in the depths of the eyes trembled violently and released a shocking demonic aura. As it slowly rotated, the 5 dots turned into 6. The 6-star demon eyes looked down at the heavens. Screech! Soon after, a loud phoenix cry that pierced through the 9 heavens resounded through the world. The rainbow divine vermilion bird, who was bound by a dozen or so purple chains, seemed to have been reborn. Boundless purple demonic flames revolved around it as it spread its colorful wings and broke free from its chains before flying straight into the heavens. I'm back! Whoosh! The sky was dyed by the all-encompassing multicolored light, and the splendid holy light sprinkled down like a divine rainbow after the rain. Chu-hen looked up at the other party with the help of his Saint Soul body, and his illusory face couldn't help but reveal a comforting smile. You've finally awakened. Thinking back to the battle at the Thunder Saint Palace, the scene was still vivid in his mind. The slender figure in the 7-colored divine light was like a dream. She looked back hastily for a short moment, as if she had seen it for tens of thousands of years. At that time, the slender and gentle figure turned around and looked at Chu-hen, who had a pair of bloodshot eyes and was about to become a demon. From the side of her beautiful face to the bright starry eyes that flowed over, it was like a graceful swan in the dark night. There was a kind of indescribable breathtaking beauty. He was caught off guard. "Remember, don't use that power again. I hope you can amaze me the next time we meet." Her red lips parted slightly, and her voice was completely different from her usual hoarse and deep voice. Instead, it was as graceful as glass. The moment their eyes met, Chu Hen instantly woke up and broke free from Qi Tianling's control. Sacred wing, heavenly flame sparrow. After sleeping for 2 years, he had finally awakened. Screech. Wherever the phoenix danced in the 9 heavens, the auspicious clouds burned like divine fire. The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow looked down at the vast primordial Qi torrent and at Chu Hen's purple mansion Saint Soul. Level 7 Eternal Realm. You really didn't disappoint me. The corners of Chu Hen's mouth curled up as he chuckled. Didn't you say that when we meet again, I hope to amaze you? The two of them were like old friends who had not seen each other for a long time. It was a little emotional. He was also a little touched. Looks like a lot of things happened while I was asleep? The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow said. Chu Hen nodded. I've always had a lot of things to do. If you're interested, I can tell you slowly. But before that, I'm afraid you have to tell me your name. Your name? The other party laughed. Her voice was like a silver bell. Li Qingli Mo Qingli. The other party replied. Chu Hen smiled. Nice to meet you. In the ice palace. The huge palace was already in a mess. The icicles had collapsed, the walls had collapsed, and the ground was split open with long, narrow, and rugged fault. The air was filled with a chaotic, powerful, and terrifying aura. Shifengzi, Long Xuanshuang, and Qingxue all looked at the young figure floating above the great Tao God stone in shock. A thick demonic purple light rose around his body like flames. Immediately after, Chu Hen's eyes slowly opened. After a burst of violent energy trembling, all of the chaotic aura that pervaded the world quickly converged, like a whale sucking in water. Hua! An extraordinary aura flowed out. Chu Hen looked at the people below and couldn't help but reveal a gentle smile. Then, his body moved and he flew down. An invisible aura quietly dispersed. Seeing that the aura released by Chu Hen was far stronger than before, Shifengzi's eyes were filled with surprise. Long Xuanshuang hurriedly walked up and asked anxiously, How are you? Are you injured? Injured? Chu Hen smiled and shook his head. I'm fine. Feeling the powerful aura from Long Xuanshuang, Chu Hen's brows were filled with excitement. Did you succeed? Yes. Long Xuanshuang nodded. What grade of sacred physique? I'm not sure yet. After saying that, Long Xuanshuang's mind moved, and a snowflake-shaped spiritual tattoo flashed between her brows. Then, a cold ice vortex started to circulate around everyone. The cold ice vortex was like a whirlpool formed by roaring ice and frost. The extremely cold airflow caused everyone's blood to freeze. Feeling this powerful bloodline boundary power, Chu Hen's eyes could not help but light up. This power is definitely not weaker than a high-grade sacred physique. Long Xuanshuang retracted her aura, and her clear eyes flashed. Shifengzi, who was at the side, also expressed his surprise. Meow. Noni, the yin-yang beast, also chimed in, as if in agreement. Chu Hen glanced sideways and looked at him in surprise. Noni's power seems to have increased a lot too? Haha. You don't say. Shifengzi laughed and pointed at Noni. This stupid cat has been running to the edge of the profound derivation formation from time to time in the past year to borrow the power of the great Tao Divine Stone. It's hard not to improve. Noni had the ability to control the power of yin and yang. The great Tao Divine Stone also contained a huge amount of yin and yang power. Therefore, it could absorb it. After hearing Shifengzi's words, Chu Hen couldn't help but laugh. Then, he looked at Long Xuanshuang. It's been a year. Senior Shifeng, you've worked hard during this period. It's not hard on me at all. Shifeng waved his hand and said happily, "I've been very happy this year, haha happy?" The two were startled. Then, they looked at Qingxue, who was standing beside Shifeng. When he felt the slight ripple of spiritual energy emitted from Qingxue's body, Chu Hen immediately understood what was going on. "It's about time, let's go," Shifeng said. Chu Hen nodded, then turned to look at the black stone tablet in the center of the profound derivation formation. "I'll go get the great Tao Divine Stone. And the Ice Divine Stone, second sister, you go get it." The Ice Divine Stone was a supreme divine item made by the Ice Monarch. It contained the power of 10,000 years of winter. For Long Xuanxuang, who had an ice attribute bloodline, it could be said to be a tailor-made treasure. Long Xuanxuang didn't refuse. Then, she and Chu Hen put the Ice Divine Stone and the Great Tao Divine Stone into their bags. Then, they left the ice hall and returned to the sky above the northern snowy region. The northern snowy region, which used to be windy and snowy, had a rare sunny day. The gentle sunlight shone on the white northern snowy region, forming a unique and beautiful scenery. Looking at this familiar environment, Qingxue couldn't help but think of her only companion, Dabai. Roar! But at this moment, a low roar came from afar. Following that, a snow-white violent bear actually ran towards them from the ice field, leaving a row of neat footprints on the snowy ground. Dabai! Qingxue's eyes lit up. She ran forward in surprise and joy. "Dabai, you're still alive. That's great, whoosh!" The white bear breathed out water vapor from its nose and mouth. Its huge head was on the ground, allowing Qingxue to grab its fur. Seeing this, Long Xuanxuang turned to look at Chu Hen beside her. Previously, Luolu's sword from the Imperial Sword Sect was 100% certain to take the bear's life. However, at the last moment, Chu Hen, who was hiding in the dark, used a gentle force to push the white bear away from its position. As a result, Luolu's sword missed the white bear's vital points. This was also why Luolu had angrily reprimanded Chu Daring twice for meddling in his business. "Dabai, it's great that you're not dead." Qingxue jumped up and down happily. Then, she turned to look at Shifeng and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, Grandpa Master. I can't leave the northern snowy region with you. I have to stay and accompany Dabai." Shifeng was startled. A hint of loneliness welled up in his old eyes. But he replied with a smile, "Okay." However, Dabai raised his head and a low voice came from his throat. Qingxue was stunned and looked at him in confusion. "Dabai, what did you say? You want me to go with them?" As soon as he said that, everyone present was stunned. Dabai nodded in response. "Why? Isn't it better for us to stay here?" Qingxue asked. Dabai spoke softly in beast language that only Qingxue could understand. His brown eyes were filled with determination. Shifeng expression was clearly uneasy. He couldn't help but ask, "What did he say?" Qingxue turned around, her eyes red. "Dabai wants me to leave the northern snowy region with you. He said this is not a place for me to stay." A hint of warmth appeared in Shifeng eyes. "He's right. This is indeed not a place for you to stay. Now that the Ice Palace has reappeared, there are no more secrets in the northern snowy region. There's no need for you to stand guard here. Leave with us today and come back to see your friends later." "Phew!" Dabai seemed to agree with Shifeng words and agreed softly. Qingxue bit her lip, tears welling up in her eyes. After an extremely difficult moment of hesitation, she slowly retreated back to Shifeng side. "Dabai, you must wait for me to come back. Don't let the bad guys hurt you again," the white bear moaned softly as a response. Chu Hen also patted Qingxue's shoulder. "Don't worry. No one will come to the northern snowy region in the future. Dabai will be very safe." Qingxue wiped the tears from her eyes and a pure smile appeared on her face. In the northern snowy region, the huge white bear stood proudly on the summit of a snowy mountain and roared into the sky. It gazed at Chu Hen, who was getting further and further away. Shi Fengzi and the others disappeared into the snowy region. They left Ice City and announced the conclusion of their trip to the northern snowy region. Although there were a few accidents that occurred in the span of over a year, this trip had finally come to a successful conclusion. Long Xuanxuang had successfully evolved to the holy body bloodline limit. Her cultivation base had also advanced by leaps and bounds to the 6th stage of the Eternal Realm. The biggest surprise was still Chuhen. Due to a freak combination of factors, his bloodline had advanced again and his cultivation base had also advanced by 4 stages, reaching the 7th stage of the Eternal Realm. This full stop also meant that a new prologue was about to begin. After a year, Chu Hen embarked on his journey back to the martial sect. Chapter 1198. Wu Zong. The mountain range was precipitous and majestic. The beautiful mountain range was filled with extremely dense spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Tianwu Peak. Today, the Lingshao platform square could be said to be very lively. People came and went, and the bustling crowd gathered on the square. The momentum was especially great. The sect war has finally arrived. This time, I, Long Xiaoyun, will definitely show my skills and shine. Humph. Stop bragging. With your standard, I'm afraid you won't even be able to pass the first round. Screw you. What if I pass the first round? Don't brag. The rules have been changed this time. It is said that the top 32 will be decided in the first round. With your mediocre skills, you don't even have the qualifications to stand on the stage. That's right. I've also heard that the rules have changed this time. It seems to be an elimination mode similar to the battle of a cornered beast. Only those who complete the advancement will enter the arena competition. Oh my god! This is so difficult. A battle between sects. It was the martial ancestors' greatest sacred scripture. It was also a grand event that every Wu Zong disciple looked forward to the most. This was the biggest test for all the disciples. It was also a pinnacle battle that would decide whether the other party was a dragon or a snake. It could be seen that the majority of the disciples on Tianwu Peak were very excited. Everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation. Even for some disciples who didn't plan to participate in the competition, it was still something that they looked forward to. In the sect battle, everyone could personally witness the exciting battles between the disciples of the 4 peak academies, and the intense battles between the top geniuses on the Heaven Martial ranking. Even though they were just spectators, they still felt extremely excited. What do you guys think? Who will be the champion this time? Hey, do you even need to think about it? Of course it's Qiu Xingyi, Senior Qiu. Hua. When Qiu Xingyi's name came out, the crowd immediately burst into an uproar. Everyone couldn't help but look at the Heaven Martial stele in the center of the high heaven platform. On the stone stele, the name Qiu Xingyi was like a bright moon that towered above the 2 geniuses, Wang Li and Pei Yi, and it stood at the top of the list. However, a certain voice soon came from the crowd. As far as I know, Senior Brother Qiu doesn't plan to participate in the sect battle this year. His words stirred up 1,000 ripples, and the crowd exclaimed once again. No way! Senior Brother Qiu is going to be absent again? He didn't participate in the last sect battle either. That's right. Last time, Senior Brother Qiu took part in the sect battle. He directly suppressed everyone and took first place. This way, Senior Brother Qiu has been absent from the sect battle for 2 consecutive years. If that's the case, then I think Senior Brother Wang Li, who won last year, will be the champion again. I also think it's Senior Brother Wang Li. His 1,000 illusion sacred body bloodline limit is too strong, and he also has the South Spirit art. Other than Senior Brother Qiu, no one is his match. Humph, you guys from the South Spirit Peak Academy can keep on boasting. Are you looking down on Senior Brother Pei Yi of the West Dome Peak Academy? That's right. To be honest, Senior Brother Pei Yi's Kylan Holy Body bloodline boundary can be called the King of Destruction. This year, Senior Brother Pei Yi will definitely aim for the first place. Haha, what a joke, your West Dome Peak Academy really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Don't you remember how Pei Yi lost to senior brother Wang Li last time? Of course I remember, that was just senior brother Pei Ye's mistake. A loss is a loss, don't find excuses. The heaven marshal ranking can't be wrong. Third place is third place, how can he win against second place? Then your South Spirit Peak Academy just wait and see. A disagreement. The disciples of the various peak academies immediately started a fierce war of words on the Heaven Marshal Peak Plaza. Everyone was arguing for this year's most popular contestant. Each of them argued until their faces were red, and they were just short of fighting. At the edge of the Ling Shao platform plaza, a thin figure stood there quietly, seemingly out of place with the noisy atmosphere. It's already been more than a year. She sighed softly, her fair little hand tightly grasping a crystal bead the size of a longan. The crystal bead was crystal clear, and its color was transparent. In the center of it, the words Yi Yao could be clearly seen. That guy isn't back yet? Looks like he's going to miss the sect war. Wu Mian walked over from the back, and as he spoke, he played with the crystal bead in his hand. Inside the crystal bead, his name was also written. Yi Yao shook her head helplessly. When Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang left the martial sect, she was still in seclusion. From the letters left behind by Wu Mian and Long Xuanxuang, she found out that they had gone to the Northern Plains snow region. It had already been more than a year, and they had yet to return. I wonder if they can come back? Wu Mian muttered in his heart. Although Wu Mian did not know much about the Northern Plains snow region, he had a rough idea of the situation there. Many people would go there to search for the inheritance treasures left behind by the Ice Empress. Some would return empty-handed, while others would be buried in the snow region forever. Although Wu Mian did not wish for anything to happen to Chu Hen, it had already been so long, and it was inevitable that people would overthink it. Hee, junior sister Yi Yao, why are you standing here in a sullen mood? Just at this moment, a playful voice sounded from behind. Yi Yao and Wu Mian instinctively turned to look, only to see a few young figures with arrogant auras walking towards them. The person in the lead was dressed in luxurious brocade robes, looking like a noble. However, his playful expression gave off a frivolous feeling. Lu Chen. Wu Mian frowned slightly. Lu Chen, a genius of Dongxian Peak. He was ranked 13th on the Heaven Marshal leaderboard. Although he was a good-for-nothing, he was also a genius through and through. In the past year, as Yi Yao's strength grew and her reputation increased, she was gradually recognized by the various peak schools. With the power of the sacred body of Tai Chi and her outstanding looks, Yi Yao had no lack of suitors in the sect. However, Yi Yao rejected all of them. Lu Chen was one of those rejected. As a proud person and a monster on the Heaven Marshal leaderboard, Lu Chen, who felt that he had lost face, would come to taunt him every few days. However, Yi Yao was unwilling to pay any attention to him. She turned around and left. Lu Chen smiled frivolously. Still waiting for that brother Chu Hen of yours? I'm afraid that coward won't be coming back. Hearing him insult Chu Hen, Yi Yao frowned and could not help but clench her fists. You can insult me, but please don't insult him. Insult? Haha. Lu Chen laughed and said, Is this an insult? I'm telling the truth. Who doesn't know that he ran away in the middle of the night after offending Pei Yi? I thought he had some ability since he passed the rookie challenge, but I didn't expect him to run away so quickly. If this isn't a coward, what is? Yi Yao blushed, her almond-shaped eyes widening. A year ago, she had heard about the conflict between Chu Hen and Pei Yi in the back mountains of the sect. Later on, because of Chu Hen's sudden departure, all the disciples of the sect thought that Chu Hen had been scared away by Pei Yi, although she knew that was not the truth. The mockery of the people around her still made her furious. Wu Mian shook his head and sighed. To be honest, sometimes, even he felt that going to Beichuan Ice region was just an excuse for Chu Hen. After all, who was Pei Yi? In terms of ruthlessness and cruelty, even Qiu Xingyi and Wang Li could not compare to him. Therefore, it was impossible for him to escape. I say, junior sister Yi Yao, staying in Beichen Peak Academy is too much for you. Why don't you come to my Dongxian Peak Academy? Lu Chen smiled calmly. I don't want to talk to you. I won't leave Beichen Peak Academy. Brother Chu Hen is not a coward either. Please stay away from me. Yi Yao said coldly. Ha 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 ha. Lu Chen laughed frivolously. What a joke. Let me ask the entire sect, who doesn't know that Chu Hen is a cowardly rat? Why do you have to lie to yourself? Cowardly rat. Lu Chen said these 4 words especially loudly. Everyone on Tianwu Peak Square was instantly attracted over. Seeing the pairs of eyes that swept over, Yi Yao was angry and annoyed. She wanted to turn around and leave, but she could not stand Lu Chen's repeated insults to Chu Hen. Her eyes turned cold as she shouted coldly, I said, you're not allowed to insult him anymore. What? Junior sister Yi Yao wants to fight me? Sure. I'd like to see how much Beichen Peak's sealed personal disciple has improved in the past year. With that, a powerful aura was released from Lu Chen's body. Seeing this, Wu Mian immediately panicked. He hurriedly stepped forward to dissuade. Senior brother Lu Chen, please, however, before Wu Mian could finish his words, a piercingly cold wind suddenly swept across the entire Tianwu Peak Square, and a majestic aura that was comparable to a torrent surged over. The dust on the ground dispersed. The hearts of everyone present suddenly jolted. In the next moment, there was a crushing aura coming from Lu Chen's position. An unparalleled aura filled the sky, setting off a sky full of frost and dust. The whirlwind was like a blade, and the cold current poured down. In an instant, 2 young figures with peerless aura appeared on Lingshao Platform Square like phantoms. Who are you calling a cowardly rat? An indifferent voice exuded the unique prestige of a king. Bang! A dull explosion sounded. Lu Chen directly knelt on both knees, and the bricks under his knees shattered inch by inch. The powerful aura released by the other party was instantly suppressed. Chapter 1199. Who did you say is a coward? The air was like a torrent, and the sky was filled with frost. A powerful and invisible aura, like a mountain, came crashing down. The instant that indifferent voice was transmitted into everyone's ears, the stone tiles on the ground instantly turned into dust. Under countless shocked gazes, Lu Chen directly knelt on the ground, and the aura that he had released was instantly crushed. Hua! A mighty wave of air spread out in all directions. At this moment, the entire Sky Marshal Peak suddenly welcomed an unprecedented silence. Everyone was astonished. Everyone stared at the scene in front of them in disbelief. Lu Chen. That was a genius ranked 13th on the Sky Marshal list, and he actually knelt in front of everyone. What kind of aura was this? Who was it? Then, everyone's gaze swept in the same direction. Accompanied by a powerful aura that made people's hearts palpitate, 2 young figures, a man and a woman, suddenly appeared on Sky Marshal Peak. The man's aura was unparalleled, and his eyes were like stars. The woman was cold and elegant, and her beauty was peerless. Their appearance was like the bright moon, full of resplendent holy splendor. Big Brother Chu Hen. Yi Yao's eyes shone brightly, and she hurriedly ran in front of the 2 of them. Her expression was extremely joyful, and she was extremely excited. You guys are finally back. Meow. The black and white cat behind her also let out a soft cry. Noni. Yi Yao hurriedly hugged the black and white cat in her arms, and used her cheek to rub its head. I missed you so much. The happy Yi Yao formed a sharp contrast with the terrified expressions of the surrounding people. He actually came back? This is Chu Hen. If it's not him, who else could it be? But why is the aura so different? Everyone's heart was filled with shock. Especially Lu Chen. Just a moment ago, he was still shamelessly mocking Yi Yao, but in the blink of an eye, he did not even have the qualifications to stand up and speak. You dare to come back? Lu Chen stared fixedly at Chu Hen. At the same time, his body trembled as he stood up from the ground. Chu Hen's gaze turned cold, and his gaze swept towards the other party like a sharp sword. At the instant he came into contact with Chu Hen's gaze, Lu Chen's figure suddenly trembled, and he instantly felt the world spin as if he'd fallen into an abyss. There seemed to be a faint purple glow surging in the other party's deep and dark eyes. Lu Chen felt like he was staring at a demon god, and a shiver that went straight to the depths of his soul surged into his heart. His legs went soft, and he almost fell to the ground again. "Bastard, don't play tricks in front of me. You can't scare me." Lu Chen refused to bow his head just like that under the gazes of the surrounding people. As a genius ranked 13th on the Heaven Marshal roll, he would definitely not tolerate such humiliation. He let out a beast-like roar and charged at Chu Hen aggressively. Chu Hen's expression slightly darkened, but he did not move at all. When the other party aggressively rushed in front of them, there was a flash of light in the air. Everyone only saw a flash of cold light in front of their eyes, and then there was a muffled bang. A violent purple halo surged in the air, and along with the chaotic wind, a figure was directly sent flying. Boom! Without any deviation, he directly collided with the Heaven Marshal stone tablet on the plaza. The huge stone tablet faintly trembled, and tiny cracks appeared on the stone tablet behind Lu Chen. A large mouthful of blood gushed out from his mouth, and he heavily fell to the ground, unable to get up again. Hiss! In an instant, everyone in the plaza sucked in a breath of cold air. Everyone's eyes were wide open, and their faces were filled with deep shock. The few people who came with Lu Chen were also scared to the point that their faces were deathly pale. They did not even dare to go forward to help him. Wu Mian, who was standing behind Yi Yao, fiercely swallowed a mouthful of saliva. In a year's time, the other party's cultivation had already reached an unfathomable level. The rumor that he was scared away by Pei Yi was self-destructed. Without taking another look at Lu Chen, Chu Hen strode toward a stone platform in front of him. There, a few martial ancestor realm disciples were standing in front of a rectangular table. On the table, there was a thick list of names, as well as neatly arranged transparent crystal balls. "I sign up for the sect battle." Chu Hen slightly raised his gaze, and spat out a few words clearly. The martial ancestor realm disciples in charge of the registration were all shocked, and even a little dazed. They almost did not come back to their senses. "Yes, yes." One of the disciples hurriedly took out a scroll with 2 lines of names written on it and placed it in front of Chu Hen. "Please personally sign your name." Chu Hen picked up the brush beside him, and wrote Chu Hen under the last person's name. The tip of the brush was steady, but it did not lose its sharpness. Shortly after, another disciple took out a crystal ball, raised his finger, and drew a few brilliant light patterns in the air. Buzz! Streaks of bright light patterns flowed into the crystal ball, and then transformed into Chu Hen's name. This is equivalent to a token of participation. The young disciple respectfully presented the crystal ball to Chu Hen with both hands. Chu Hen nodded his head and took it in his palm. Subsequently, Long Xuanshuang also wrote her name on the scroll. She also received a transparent crystal ball with the 3 words, Long Xuanshuang. After a simple registration, the 2 of them turned around and left. The few disciples in charge of the registration heaved a sigh of relief and wiped the cold sweat off their foreheads. Obviously, what happened just now had shocked many people. At this moment, the atmosphere in the square of Tianwu Peak was a little strange. The crowd was whispering and communicating in low voices. "He also signed up for the sect battle. Seems like the situation this year is a little complicated." "What's complicated about it?" "He only defeated Lu Chen. If he met senior brother Pei Yi, he wouldn't even know how he died." "But I feel that he's here for senior brother Pei Yi." "Forget it. If he's really here for senior brother Pei Yi, he's basically walking to Hades." Chu Hen didn't pay much attention to the complicated crowd around him. He said to Long Xuanxuang and Yi Yao, "Let's go." And Yi Yao nodded happily. On a mountain on the west side of Tianwu Peak, a few figures with cold eyes looked at Chu Hen and the others who were leaving Tianwu Peak. "I didn't expect that damn bastard to actually come back. But it's good that he's back. Shen Hong, your violent divine hammer is still with him," one of them said. Shen Hong frowned, and then looked at another figure standing in front of him with an extraordinary aura. "Senior Brother Xiao, this bastard's strength seems to have increased a lot." Xiao Meng's eyes suddenly surged with thick frost. His face was gloomy as he replied coldly, "So what? My Xiao Meng is not afraid of him." Shen Hong didn't say anything more, but there was a faint coldness in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 1200. In the residence of Long Xuanxuang and Yi Yao. In a courtyard with elegant scenery. "Sister Xuanxuang, have you really evolved into a holy body?" Yi Yao's eyes were shining brightly, looking at the other party in surprise. Long Xuanxuang nodded, with a smile on her lips. "Amazing! How did you do it? I've even asked the Peak Master if he could help you evolve your bloodline limit after you come back. He said that it's relatively difficult for you to evolve your body type with the ice attribute," Yi Yao said. When Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang left the martial sect, although they left a letter to Yi Yao, they only told the other party that they were going to the northern snow region to find a way to upgrade the bloodline boundary for Long Xuanxuang. They did not tell the other party the specific details. When Yi Yao was worried, she also asked the North Star Peak Master Yuan Shang to help pay attention to Long Xuanxuang. But because of the complexity of evolving the bloodline boundary, Yuan Shang did not take this matter too seriously. After all, Long Xuanxuang was not as outstanding as Chu Hen, so it was normal that she did not get the attention of the higher-ups. Long Xuanxuang smiled and said, "It's all the credit of your brother Chu Hen and Senior West Wind. I just enjoyed the fruits of their labor." "Really? Senior West Wind also went? Is he okay?" Chu Hen raised his eyebrows slightly, looked at Long Xuanxuang and said with a smile, "You don't say. Senior West Wind picked up a personal disciple this time. Don't mention how happy he is." "Personal disciple?" Yi Yao was a little surprised. Immediately, the two of them told each other everything that had happened in the northern snowy region in full detail. They talked for almost half an hour or so. Chu Hen said goodbye to the two women, and as soon as he went out, he saw a familiar figure standing outside the door, pacing back and forth. This person was none other than Wu Mian. "What are you doing here?" Chu Hen was startled. Seeing Chu Hen come out, Wu Mian hurriedly went up to him and chuckled. "I've been waiting for you here. Wait for me. Why aren't you going in?" Wu Mian scratched his head in embarrassment. "It's nothing. I'm just a little surprised that you're back. I thought. Do you really think I was scared away by Pei Yi?" Chu Hen said as he walked. Wu Mian shrugged, trying to resolve the awkwardness. Then, he shouted, That string of runes that you asked me to look for, I have a clue." As soon as he said this, Chu Hen, who was walking in front, stopped and turned to look at him. There was a look of anticipation between his brows. "Are those runes engraved on a semicircular stone?" Wu Mian asked. Chu Hen's pupils trembled slightly, his hands clenched into fists. As expected, the stone that he had obtained was only half of it. There was indeed another half. "Where is that stone?" Chu Hen asked. Wu Mian spread his hands and looked as if he didn't know. "It's gone." "Gone? What do you mean?" "It's like this. That stone was accidentally brought back by an elder of the sect when he went out a few decades ago. Because he felt that there might be something unusual about it, he studied it for a long time, and then, Wu Mian's face revealed a hint of disdain. In the end, he found that it was useless. The only special thing was that the stone had extraordinary stability. The runes on it were also very stable. There would be no rejection or backlash between them, At this point, Chu Hen was already 100% sure that the half-piece of stone he was talking about was the thing he was looking for. Wu Mian continued, because of its strong stability, the elders of the sect later placed it in the great formation that created the Reverie Star Realm to strengthen the stability of the Reverie Star Realm. In the Reverie Star Realm? Chu Hen was stunned. Wu Mian nodded and then curled his lip. It was originally peaceful, but just over 10 years ago, that stone mysteriously disappeared. At that time, it even caused a 2-month stagnation in the Reverie Star Realm. I remember this very clearly. But I'm very surprised. Why is the thing you're looking for that mysteriously disappeared? Chu Hen could not help but fall into deep thought. There was no reason. Even the elders of the sect could not study it and only used it as something to assist in the operation of the Reverie Star Realm. What was the use of it for others? Could it be? The corner of Chu Hen's eyes slightly narrowed. He asked calmly, perhaps, not long after that incident, something else happened in the sect? Something else? I don't think so. Wu Mian looked at Chu Hen with a strange expression, then looked at the azure sky. His mind quickly mobilized his memories. Then, he suddenly clapped his hands and blurted out, "That's right, Old Een Monkey also disappeared that year." Yes, that's right, Old Een Monkey went on a mission not long after. In the end, he never returned and there was no news of him. Hua. It was like a gloomy dark cloud being pushed aside by the warm sunlight. Bright light poured down. In an instant, everything matched up. The origin of everything, in the end, still returned to the Old Een Monkey. In that case, Old Een Monkey's strange disappearance was not a coincidence. He had been studying those mysterious runes. Perhaps it was because he had discovered something. He had stolen that half-stone in the Reverie Star Realm and then disappeared mysteriously. "Give me your disciple's keepsake," Chu Hen immediately said. Wu Mian's eyes lit up and he quickly took out the token with the words Beichen engraved on it. That junior brother Chu Hen, although I didn't help you find that half-stone, you can just give me 50 star keys as a token. Just as he finished speaking, a green vertical mark appeared on Wu Mian's token. 100 star keys. Wu Mian's eyes almost popped out. He rubbed his hands back and forth in excitement. Junior brother Chu Hen is really generous, ha. Don't mention this to anyone, Chu Hen said. Understood, ha. Wu Mian could not wait to receive the disciple token. He hugged the token and kissed it twice. Ha, so many star keys. I, Wu Old too, am probably going to rise. It's a pity that the sect war will be held the day after tomorrow. Otherwise, my strength would have increased greatly. Looking at Wu Mian, who was grinning from ear to ear, Chu Hen smiled indifferently and then flew in the direction of Beichen Peak Academy alone. A moment later, Sky Observation Peak. Even though he had been away for more than a year, the cave abode was still clean and tidy without a speck of dust. Yi Yao would come over to clean it whenever she had time. The cool mountain breeze passed through the hall, and one could vaguely hear the sound of water flowing in the deep pool behind the cave abode. Chu Hen stood quietly in front of a stone wall. The stone wall was engraved with strange and complicated secret scriptures. Old Een Monkey, what kind of person are you? It only took him 3 days to comprehend the Beichen mantra, one of the martial ancestor sect's 4 great techniques, from the Saint Monument. Then, he even improved it. He sealed the spirit vein at the bottom of Sky Observation Peak for his own use. More than 10 years ago, he mysteriously disappeared with that half of the mysterious stone. Chu Hen could not help but laugh. He shook his head and sighed softly. If he had not accidentally come to live in this Sky Observation Peak, if he had not accidentally discovered the secret on the wall, it was likely that until now, the world would have thought that the Old Een Monkey was just an unsociable, opportunistic and treacherous person. If there's a chance, I'd like to meet you, this arrogant senior. Then, Chu Hen headed toward the deep pool on the south side of Sky Observation Peak. Bang! With a loud sound, the calm pool stirred up a monstrous splash. Chu Hen was like a swordfish shuttling through the deep sea, directly rushing toward the bottom. Not long after, Chu Hen entered the underground river. Following the wide underground river, Chu Hen headed toward the depths of the cave. After just a short while, a deep dragon roar suddenly came from the front. Roar, a deep and resounding voice spread through all the underground tunnels. A wave of supreme majesty that went straight into the depths of his soul assaulted him. Chu Hen's mind unconsciously trembled, as if he had entered a dangerous forbidden area. Chapter 1201. Roar, a deep dragon roar that went straight to the depths of one's soul reverberated in all directions of the underground river. An incomparably fearsome and majestic aura immediately made one feel as if they had entered a forbidden area of death, where ancient beasts were lurking. Chu Hen's heart skipped a beat, and then he moved forward at the fastest speed possible. Hua, the invisible majestic pressure seemed to come from an ancient noble emperor. When Chu Hen arrived at the location of the underground spirit vein, a piercingly cold gust of wind surged over. The ferocious and intimidating malevolent dragon bones looked down at Chu Hen with indifference. A layer of illusory golden flame enveloped the skeleton, as if it was an illusory body. Under the golden flame, every bone emitted a luxurious light like colored glass, and the huge eye sockets that were originally empty were burning with 2 balls of red light. Compared to the illusory light from before, the 2 balls of red light were unusually strong and condensed. Chu Hen, who was standing in front of it, had a feeling as if he was looking at a huge ancient beast. This feeling was especially clear and real. More than a year ago, it was almost impossible to sense the fluctuation of life force, but now it was especially powerful and astonishing. Similarly, from the other party's crimson eyes, Chu Hen also faintly sensed a trace of contempt, a contempt that came from a supreme species, an ancient ferocious spirit. The corners of Chu Hen's mouth curled into a sneer. Looks like you've been a little complacent for more than a year, Hua. Before he finished speaking, an incomparably majestic and powerful aura suddenly surged out from Chu Hen's body. Immediately after, the violet palace of true essence opened, and a powerful suction force spread out. Dense white light quickly enveloped the huge dragon skeleton, and its entire body was suffused with a transparent illusory light. Accompanied by a strong spatial rhythm, the dragon skeleton turned into a white shadow and drilled into Chu Hen's body. However, in the next instant, an unruly and incomparably violent and terrifying power spread out from Chu Hen's body. In an instant, the blood in Chu Hen's body was faintly boiling, and he only felt that the true essence in his Zifu was turning upside down. Obviously, this ancient beast that was revered as an ancient god was no longer willing to be trapped in the body of an ordinary human. He wanted to break free from all restraints. Boom! Bang! Chu Hen's Zifu world of true essence shockingly sank into a state of turmoil. The gigantic dragon skeleton was like a berserk zombie dragon, stirring up the wind and clouds in all directions. It danced up and down, and its ferocious power continuously crashed into the mountains and the sky below. Buzz! Soon, Chu Hen's saint soul, which was hovering above the true origin energy river, opened its eyes and looked at the ferocious dragon skeleton with a chilly gaze. Screech! At the same time, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow Mo Qingli dived down like a cloud of fire. It spread its wings and whizzed past Chu Hen's body like a shadow. This is the dragon skeleton from the ancient Baron's realm? I almost forgot about it. What's going on? Did it come back to life? It was not completely dead in the first place. Although its physical body was destroyed, there is still a remnant of its soul in the skeleton. Chu Hen replied calmly. Oh. Mo Qingli was a little surprised. You shared your power with it? It was like that before, but then I found a spiritual vein under the Wu Zone. I see. There was no need for too much explanation. Mo Qingli immediately understood what had happened. Over the past year or so, The dragon skeleton had been absorbing the power of the spiritual vein at the foot of the sky observation peak day and night. A huge amount of power was constantly being supplied to it, and its soul was gradually strengthening. In other words, the dragon skeleton had now regained some of its consciousness, and it began to instinctively resist Chu Hen's restraints. "It seems like its wings have hardened and it wants to escape," Emo Qingli said calmly. "Humph," Chu Hen chuckled. "You have to get my permission first." Whoosh. After saying that, the saint's soul directly stepped into the air and flew toward the dragon skeleton. "This is my territory. Even if you are a real dragon, you have to obediently lie on the ground." Roar! An earth-shattering roar of anger set off a torrent of energy. The dragon skeleton danced in the air, and the golden light that rose from its body transformed into an illusory body. It leaped into the air, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it pounced toward Chu Hen. In the next instant, the sharp claws of the huge dragon's skeleton solidly collided with Chu Hen's saint soul. Bang! An enormous sound that shook the heavens rang out. The violent and ferocious golden wave of air was like a huge ripple that expanded endlessly. The earth shook, the mountains swayed, and the space trembled. Chu Hen felt as if he had been hit by a mountain. His palms and arms went slightly numb, and he actually retreated. The dragon skeleton, which was also retreating, opened its mouth and roared angrily. What a powerful force! Chu Hen was secretly shocked. "Be serious. Don't be too careless." The saintly winged heavenly flame sparrow also reminded him. "It is the most ancient divine beast. Even if only its bones are left, the power of every inch of its bones is not weaker than a divine artifact." Divine artifact? Chu Hen was even more surprised. At the same time, his eyes couldn't help but reveal a hint of solemnity. Roar! At the same time, the dragon skeleton once again roared. Its sharp claws were surrounded by dazzling golden patterns. They tore through the air, and the cold light was like a blade. "Humph! Don't forget, this is my purple mansion world. Hum!" Before the voice died away, a shocking figure that looked like a fiend god suddenly appeared under the sky. The black shadow held up the sky, and an extremely violent energy was quietly gathered in the palm of the black shadow. It was like a rapidly brewing undercurrent in the deep sea. Along with the trembling space, a majestic black beam of light shot out from the palm of the demon god's shadow. With a shocking momentum, it firmly struck the body of the dragon skeleton. Boom! The incomparably violent impact exploded in the sky. The magnificent scene was like a collision of stars and clouds. Air flowed, and the dragon skeleton was immediately sent flying. Then, countless agitated sounds of wind and thunder swept across the area. A huge lightning net came down, attacking the dragon skeleton from all directions with the momentum of an encirclement. Crack! The wantonly lightning bolts covered his entire body, like a web of lightning entangling and swimming around his body. Roar! The dragon skeleton, which was constantly being attacked, let out an angry roar. In the next instant, a black shadow suddenly appeared above its head. Without any time to react, a black stone tablet that was like a mountain range directly fell from the sky. It was like a meteorite as it heavily smashed into its body. Boom! The earth shook and the mountains swayed. It was like a mountain of Mount Tai pressing down on a peerless calamity. The dragon skeleton was directly pressed down by the supreme power of the divine stone of the great path. Roar! The dragon skeleton twisted its head and tail, trying to break free. However, the middle section was firmly pressed down, and it couldn't move. Buzz buzz. Then, a pair of huge purple eyes, like those of a demon god, slowly appeared in the sky. Demonic purple light poured down, and the invisible pressure stopped the dragon skeleton from moving. Below the purple eyes, Chu Hen's saint soul stood in the air, looking at the dragon skeleton with indifference. "If you are of use to me, I will do my best to reconstruct your physical body in the future. But if you refuse to repent, I will once again send you back to the dragon burial abyss." His indifferent voice exuded the majesty of a king. The scarlet flames in the dragon skeleton's empty eye sockets faintly pulsed. It raised its head, as if sizing up the seemingly weak but powerful human in front of it. After a while, the ferocious aura it emitted gradually receded, and the scarlet flames in its eye sockets also calmed down. The corners of Chu Hen's mouth twitched. With a thought, the divine stone of the great path that was suppressing the dragon skeleton was immediately moved away. At this moment, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow suddenly flew above the dragon skeleton. Along with the release of tens of thousands of dazzling, colorful light patterns, in an instant, with the dragon skeleton as the center, numerous unpredictable and complicated array patterns spread out in all directions, tens of thousands of flourishing ancient runes spread out, like giant chains of fiend gods and devils enveloping him. "What are you doing?" Chu Hen looked at the other party, a little confused. "Soul possession forbidden technique. A demon race secret technique that fuses its power with yours. Your power can help it become stronger, and you can also control its power." Chu Hen's eyes lit up, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Sky observation peak. No one knew what lay beneath the calm mountain range. The spirit vein hidden deep in the underground river was like the blood of the earth, containing extremely pure and majestic power. Chu Hen quietly stood in the spirit vein with his eyes closed. Like a river flowing into the sea, an endless stream of immortal spiritual energy entered his body. Lines of strange runes could faintly be seen flashing outside his body. Every rune was like a bridge that connected two different powers, mysterious and unpredictable, ever-changing. Time flew by and the sun and moon rotated. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed quickly. When the first rays of the sun shone on the Martial Sect's mountain gate on the third day, the loud and clear bell sound was like a horn from the battlefield, echoing inside and outside the sect. On the peaks of the various peaks, many imposing figures stood up one after another and looked at the sky. Dongxian Peak, Shiqiong Peak, Nanling Peak, Beichen Peak. Pairs of sharp eyes quietly opened, glowing like sharp swords. In the underground cave of Sky Observation Peak. Whoosh! The river of spirit vein rippled. Chu Hen, who had been silent for 2 days, lifted his eyelids. Under the dim light, his cold eyes were as bright as the stars. An impassioned dragon roar came from Chu Hen's body. He slowly stood up and an incomparable aura surged out like a tide. His deep eyes seemed to penetrate through the layers of rocks in the cave and reach the boundless 9 heavens. Sect War. Chapter 1202. Star Peak. It was located on the southeast side of the Martial Sect. Normally, the Star Peak was not open to the sect's disciples, and even the sect's elders were rarely able to set foot here. That was the oldest cultivation place in the Martial Sect. The jade palaces that towered into the clouds were like stars under the sky, emitting an ancient aura. Screech! In the sky above the Starry Sky building, there was an eagle flying through the clouds, displaying a heroic and majestic aura. At this moment, in the air above the mountain peaks, there was actually a vast and boundless Lingshao sky platform floating in the air. The soaring sky platform was square in shape, with a length and width of more than 2,000 meters. From afar, the soaring sky platform was like a huge meteorite floating in the air, with a thickness of more than 300 meters. The top of the platform seemed to have been cut flat, and it was neatly paved with stone slabs. It gave people the feeling that it was like an inverted mountain peak. The soaring sky platform plaza had such a spectacular aura that it broke free from gravity and floated in the air above 1,000 meters. It was as if there was an invisible force holding it up high. Obviously, this would be the battle platform for the Sex War. The main peak of the Star Peak was located on the north side of the soaring sky battle platform. On the Star Peak, there was an incomparably spectacular ancient pavilion that emitted a majestic aura like that of a heavenly palace. Not only was the pavilion extraordinary, It was also especially spacious. The clearly defined pavilion faced the soaring sky battle platform in front of it. From afar, there were more than 10 exquisite and dignified stone chairs placed on the pavilion. The stone chairs were lined up in a row, and there were 4 stone chairs placed at a higher position. On the other hand, in the east, west, and south of the soaring sky battle platform, there were also majestic viewing platforms built. Every wide viewing platform was like a city tower that stood in the sky. There were all sorts of ancient and spectacular buildings and towers. Such a scene was like a myriad of stars orbiting the moon, incomparable. At this moment, the stargazing platforms around the battle platform were already packed with people. Young figures with extraordinary auras stepped through the air and arrived. The gathering of the wind and clouds, the battle between dragons and tigers. An invisible sharp aura quietly spread out. It's really amazing. Chu Hen, who was on the southern tower's viewing platform, looked at the ancient buildings around him in amazement. The arena floating in the air in the middle was an eye-opener for him. It's indeed amazing. It's actually able to stand so steadily in the air. Long Xuan, who was beside him, nodded in admiration. If we fight on it, will it collapse? Yi Yao asked casually. Don't worry. Wu Mian quietly snuck over and happened to overhear their conversation. He explained, the sky battle ring is built with the heaven and earth grand formation as its foundation. You don't have to worry about it being destroyed at all. No matter how badly it's damaged, it'll be able to repair itself very quickly. Chu Hen nodded. I see. Brother Chu, Lady Xuan, you are here? At this moment, a familiar voice sounded. The eyes of Chu Hen and the others lit up. Brother Zhao, the newcomers were none other than Zhao Qingyi and Zhao Qingkai. After not seeing each other for more than a year, the aura exuded by the siblings was obviously much stronger than before. Seeing Chu Hen, Zhao Qingyi smiled brightly. I heard from Lady Yi Yao that the two of you went out to do something. I was wondering when you would come back. You're just in time for the sect war. Indeed, you came back just in time. Chu Hen also faintly smiled. I heard that you defeated Lu Chun at Heaven Martial Peak 2 days ago? Zhao Qingkai looked at him with his big bright eyes. Amazing! Now that guy can't even participate in the sect war. Towards these matters, Chu Hen only smiled faintly and did not say much. However, Wu Mian immediately began to boast. Of course, our junior brother Chu Hen really blinded countless people that day. He didn't even use much strength and Lu Chun fell. Haha, is that so? I'm looking forward to your next performance. Zhao Qingyi laughed. I dare say that he's definitely in the top 8. Wu Mian patted his chest and said, he's probably just slightly weaker than our Beichen Peak Academy's senior brother Wu Yan. Hee, are you talking about me? Just as Wu Mian finished speaking, a gentle and refreshing laughter was heard. Everyone's gaze subconsciously swept over. Wu Mian immediately raised his eyebrows and said excitedly, Wu, senior brother Wu Yan, Yi Yao, Long Xuan and Zhao Qingyi were also surprised. Having been in the martial organization for more than a year, they were no longer unfamiliar with the top figures on the Heaven Martial list. Wu Yan, the number 1 of Beichen Peak Academy. The existence ranked 5th on the Heaven Martial list. Although he was not the most popular candidate for this year's champion, he was still highly anticipated. Senior brother Wu Yan. Chu Hen cupped his fists, a hint of warmth surging in his eyes. He still felt a trace of gratitude towards Wu Yan. Wu Yan revealed a clean and refreshing smile and walked forward, saying, I'm very happy to see you again. No matter what, it's good that you're back. Previously, when Chu Hen had a conflict with Pei Yi, Wu Yan was a witness. Chu Hen also understood the meaning behind Wu Yan's words. He was afraid that Wu Yan more or less thought that he had left the martial organization because of Pei Yi. However, Chu Hen did not give too much of an explanation. He just smiled and nodded without saying anything else. Wow! At this moment, there was a sudden loud noise on the other side of the viewing tower. At the same time, many exclamations could be heard. In the rapidly parting crowd, a beautiful and graceful figure with an otherworldly temperament appeared in everyone's vision. Senior Sister Qianying, it's Senior Sister Qianying, Wu Mian elbowed Chu Hen excitedly. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and a faint light flashed in his eyes. Qi Qianying. Ranked fourth above Wu Yan, she was the proud daughter of Dong Xianpi. Not only was she beautiful, but she was also extremely talented. She was one of the hottest candidates to win the sect battle. Qi Qianying's appearance instantly overshadowed the other geniuses around her. However, at this moment, an indifferent and arrogant voice was heard. He Qiuxingyi is absent again. It seems that he has handed the task of Dongxian Peak's championship to you. In an instant, an invisible, piercingly cold aura spread out. Everyone was shocked, and the crowd quickly retreated to the side. Surrounded by more than a dozen West Dome Peak disciples, 3 figures with extraordinary bearings and proud expressions walked straight towards Qi Qianying. The person in the lead had a cold aura, deep eyes, and a hint of frivolity at the corner of his mouth. On his chest was a tattoo of a qilin. If Qi Qianying was the bright moon, then his appearance was like the sun, oppressive. Its senior brother Pei Yi. Pei Yi, the chief disciple of West Dome Peak.